Chapter 1273. Seeing that the Buddhists were in trouble, the Shui-Tu king was overjoyed. He sharpened his knife and said excitedly, "Fellow Taoists, the Buddhists have provoked some forbidden existences in the Hall of Translucence. Now that they are seriously injured, they can only rely on the innate spiritual treasures to protect themselves. It is time to carry forward the good style of our demonic sect and the good tradition of hitting them when they are down. Let us greet our old acquaintances, lest others say that we are rude for no reason." The Shui-Tu king revealed a kind smile that was full of blood, like a country bumpkin that came out of the corner of the mountain. Ajati picked up the white bone sword and rushed in the direction of the purple-gold alms bowl. The yuan qi of his body was torn, and there was a loud explosion. A group of demonic sect leaders were gloating and ready to chase after the fallen dog. In a few leaps, they arrived at the place where the purple-gold alms bowl had fallen. They saw that Fajing and the others were pale, and their yuan qi was badly injured. They hid under the protection of the purple-gold alms bowl, and the purple-gold alms bowl above their heads sprinkled a purple glow to protect themselves. It was as if they were invulnerable and cowardly. Fajing did not seem surprised by the arrival of the demonic sect. Seeing this, Fan Wujie thought, "It seems that everyone knows what the demonic sect is like. The masters are very well prepared." When the blood-soaked demon lord saw this, he was slightly disappointed. His face was full of smiles, and the excitement on his ferocious face and the hostility in his bloodshot eyes disappeared without a trace. His benevolent face was like a hypocrite again. He smiled and said to Master Fajing, "Master seems to have suffered a little shock in the Hall of Enlightenment. His old injuries are acting up, and it's not good. Moreover, this place is very dangerous. There are often horrifying monsters and evil followers with ulterior motive. I am very worried for you. Why don't you come to my place to rest for a while? That way, you can guard against those people with ulterior motives." When Fajing saw the sincerity on the faces of the people from the Fiend Path, he could not help but curse. "You came so quickly because you saw that we were injured and couldn't wait to rush over. Isn't the greatest evil cult with unfathomable intentions and evil intentions the Fiend Path in all the worlds?" But on the surface, Fajing had to pretend to be calm. "They're just small fries, not worth mentioning. With this violet gold alms bowl on my head, I'm impervious to all dharma and all evils. My junior brothers and I will join forces to raise it and borrow the power of this connate numinous treasure to raise the great revolving sandalwood Buddha's light. No matter how the outside attacks, no matter how the devilish flames and nether flames wear us down or how powerful dharma powers destroy us, it won't be able to harm us at all. What's there to worry about?" Master Fajing said with a calm smile. He looked at the group of demon monarchs and said with a hidden meaning, "We, the Buddhist dharma powers and supernatural powers, are the best at defense. When the demons come, even if we take advantage of the time when my junior brothers and I have lost a lot of dharma powers, we won't be able to last until we are exhausted and unable to hold on. Moreover, this place is full of danger. Unlike other places, who would dare to take such a huge risk and accompany me to spend dozens of yuanhui here?" Finally, Master Fajing added emphasis on the sentence, "dozens of yuanhui." Although the few demon monarchs knew that he was deliberately exaggerating, the supernatural powers of the Buddhist sect were indeed like a tortoise shell. If they wanted to force them to a dead end, they would have to put in a lot of hard work. The group of them took the risk to come to the depths of the ultimate in search of opportunities. They took great risks and usurped amazing benefits. Who would have the time to waste their origin and compete in endurance with a group of smelly and stubborn old monks? The blood-soaked demon monarch pondered for a moment before he suddenly squatted down beside the purple gold alms bowl and calmly said, "Grandmaster is right. But I brought my brothers out to make a living, and this is what we eat. Today, my brothers and I worked so hard to protect Grandmaster, to protect you from the disturbances of those unfathomable thieves. We worked hard for you. I admire your strength of character, but following my brothers, you can't go without food. Master, please consider our hard work, give us 1 or 2 taels, so that I can explain to my brothers." The expression on Master Fajing's face stiffened. "Benefactor, are you asking me for a bribe?" "I'm begging for alms from you," the Shwe-Tu king said sincerely. "Benefactor, I'm a monk. It has always been monks begging for alms from benefactors, and benefactors giving to monks. There has never been a benefactor asking for benefits from monks," Fa Jing said calmly. "Giving is just to make it easier for you to understand. In fact, we are asking for income from our labor, right? This is a righteous act of being protected by the demon ancestor. According to the rules of the underworld, we protected you to recover, so you should at least give us 2 or 3 taels, right? Take it as the cost of protection. If you don't give it, you have accepted our protection but are not willing to pay for our labor. What kind of behavior is this? Brothers, what kind of behavior is this?" The Shwe-Tu king pointed downwards and stood up. "Humph." The group of demon monarchs let out a grunt that contained Dowlord magic power in unison. They secretly took out their treasures that they were proud of. The Shwe-Tu king knocked on the bamboo stick and said, "Master, don't forget who forced you into this situation? That group of destruction demon disciples. Are the remnants of Ro still around? When we turn around and leave, if you happen to bump into that group of people, they won't be as reasonable as us. You are injured because your magic power is greatly weakened, but their injuries are close to the essence of destruction. They are like wounded beasts, more dangerous." Fa Jing kept his mouth shut. He knew that the Shwe-Tu king was threatening him. If he did not comply, he would plot against them and bump into the Azura remnants of Ro. Now that they were injured, it was inevitable that they would be at a loss. It would be difficult for them to leave without leaving a trace. If the group of demon sect people were determined to plot against them, it would not be difficult to lure the Azura demons here. It would also be difficult for him to erase the traces and escape. Moreover, what the Shwe-Tu king said was right. The more injured the destruction demon disciples were, the more dangerous they would be. The reason why the two sides did not join forces and eliminate the most dangerous force was because they were afraid that the remnants of Ro would die together with them. At the entrance of the Hall of Translucence, a towering figure came out from the hall. He was covered in injuries, one of his heads was torn off, and one of his arms was broken. He looked extremely miserable, filled with the smell of blood and slaughter. Although he was a corpse, Poya King's body still exuded a bloody spirit. The blood chi circulating in his body was slightly weaker, but it was stronger and more vigorous. It was as if the corpse had stretched out his muscles and bones. Although his appearance was terrible, his combat power had reached a new height. Fa Jing's expression changed and he said, "All right. Then I'll tell you some things in exchange for your protection. These Azura demons want to enter the place where the Ro demon ancestor is sealed, which is also the core of the ruins of End, the Void. Their savior, the Ro demon ancestor. And if there really is an eternal and unchanging Dara heaven in the ruins of End, then it can only exist in the Void, in Ro's seal. If you want to break through the seal, you will need 3 things. The first is the ancient Nantua ancient ant that lives in Hall of Translucence. The second is an extremely powerful killing treasure. The third is an extremely profound cultivation in algebra." "Nonsense," the Shwe-Tu king sneered. "With just them, they want to save the Ro demon ancestor?" Back then, Ro's old subordinates gathered all their strength and killed their way into the ruins of End, but they couldn't do it. How dare these defeated soldiers and a few stinky fish and shrimps dream of it? Don't forget, back then, Payaji and Vemakaitra led their army into the depths of the ruins of End and even barged into the Rose Seal. Even though they died in the end, they had barged into the depths of the ruins of End and met the Ro. They knew of some terrifying secrets of the ruins of End, So they left some backup plans for their subordinates and set up a trap to save the row again after the endless calamity. This is very normal. Great Master Fa Jing sighed. In reality, it was because we discovered some secrets left behind by the row's subordinates that we got involved in this calamity. In that case, how did the Buddhists know about these? The Shui-Tu king seemed to be thinking about the truth of Fa Jing's words. The secrets hidden in the ruins of End run through the most ancient era of the primordial world and are extremely terrifying. This isn't a corner of the heavens that is neglected by the people, but a place where the eyes of the influential people are gathered. When the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor attacked the ruins of End, who knows how many great divine arts practitioners were alarmed. Many people took this opportunity to lay down a chess piece in the ruins of End and led the Azura kings to barge into many forbidden lands that buried shocking secrets. In the end, it caused such a commotion that even old ancestor River Styx had no choice but to take action personally to cut off the prying eyes of some people on the ruins of End. However, these secrets still ended up in the hands of some people. Fa Jing said faintly. The Shui-Tu king's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "The remnants of the Road Demon ancestor, the former subordinates of Poya. Old ancestor River Styx used the Blood Sea to trap them, but at the same time, he protected them. No one knew what old ancestor River Styx intended to do, so they could only let them live in the Blood Sea of Calamity I. However, this stalemate was also broken by some people with ulterior motive. Therefore, Brahma Wujia, who had the karma of Dara heaven, fell into the Blood Sea of Calamity I. This was not a coincidence, but someone with ulterior motives used his existence to allow the three religions to enter the Blood Sea of Calamity I and come into contact with the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor. Since the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor River Styx's Blood Sea protected them from the outside world, how did you know some of the secrets?" The Shui-Tu king was puzzled. Fa Jing lowered his head and fell into silence. On the other hand, Brahma Wujia, who was listening at the side, was drenched in cold sweat. Apparently, when he was connected to the karma of Dara heaven, he had already caught the attention of some people. Because he attracted the attention of the three religions, someone wanted him to enter the Blood Sea of Calamity I and come into contact with the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor. They wanted to activate the secrets of the endless calamity, so that they could fish in troubled waters. Now, the people of the three religions had come into contact with the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor. Who knew if any of them had obtained some terrifying secrets? Were there really no pawns of the three religions among the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor? Because Brahma Wujia was connected to the karma of the three religions, he was used as a pawn to get in contact with the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor. At the same time, the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor were also used to promote the karma of the appearance of the Dara Demon ancestor. It was almost impossible for Brahma Wujia to find the deepest part of the ultimate, which was the heaven of Dara. Even with the help of the three religions, the hope was still slim. Only the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor, who had been studying the seal of Road Demon ancestor since the beginning of the endless calamity I, could he safely enter the deepest part of the ultimate, the land of nothingness. Yuan Yu suddenly said, "The information from the Buddhist League is very clear. You should know that not all the remnants of the Road Demon ancestor were sealed in the Blood Sea of Calamity I. There is still an old subordinate of Road Demon ancestor who is still free and unfettered." Shimori, Brahma Wujia and the other demon monarchs exclaimed. "Originally, I thought that King Shimori was exiled to the primordial corroding Blood Sea because he was not valued by the demon ancestor of the River Styx. He was raised by his stepmother, or he was stuck between the demon ancestor of the Road Demon ancestor and the demon ancestor of the River Styx. Now, it seems that his identity was indeed awkward. But the real reason why he was not rewarded was because he knew too much. The demon ancestor of the river Styx had exiled him to the primordial corroding blood sea, to the side of his incarnation, was actually to protect him, lest he was killed by some powerful beings who were unhappy that their secrets were exposed. Yuan Yu analyzed calmly. Only then did Brahma Wu Jie understand, so, the one who schemed against us to break the stalemate was also him. Because it was too hard for a person to bear such secrets alone. If he wanted to gain safety and freedom, he had to make sure that these deadly secrets no longer had the value of being kept a secret. That was why he used us to release the remnants of the Ro demon ancestor. It's not that simple. The Xue Tu King sneered. I think he wanted to take advantage of us. The Xue Tu King was using the thinking of the demon monarch to guess King Shimori's thoughts, and Brahma Wu Jie was speechless. The killing cult leader also calmed down. He knew clearly that the situation had become even more complicated. The secret of the heaven of Dara was already coveted enough. Now, there was also the secret of some great divinities, hidden in the ultimate. The sect leader of the killing sect sensed a strong conspiracy. Almost instinctively, he sounded the alarm in his heart. Old monk, just tell me. What secret do you know? The group of Taoists from the Fiend League and the Buddhist League remained silent. Fajing remained silent for a long while, then sighed and said, I only know that King Shimori has been crafting a supreme treasure of killing, and since the beginning of the Aeon Eons, he has been secretly working hard to imitate the 4 famous killing swords of the primordial era. He is replicating the 4 immortal slaying swords. The Xue Tu King stood up in shock, and he was truly moved. What is he trying to do? At this moment, even Yuan Yu could not control his madly beating heart. Is he trying to snatch the number 1 killing treasure of the sect? Is Shimori out of his mind? How can he touch this thing? Although Ajati could still maintain his composure, his trembling hands, which were behind his back, had betrayed his true feelings. He was terrified. The 4 immortal slaying swords. How could they be touched so easily? If they were touched, many people would die. This was not an ordinary tribulation. The number 1 killing treasure in the post-historic era, how much blood had it been stained since it was born? When the 4 immortal slaying swords were born for the first time, Ro caused the first demonic tribulation in the prehistoric era. Many innate gods and celestial lord Dara died and reincarnated. Daozu, one of the 3 pure ones, subdued Ro and thus stood out. He guided Ro to the demonic soil and established the foundation of the Western sect. Ancestor River Styx schemed against Ro, so he stepped onto the stage of the prehistoric era as the orthodox Pangu and established the Pangu demon path. Queen Huda led the 12 witches to protect the people of the earth during the demonic tribulation and united them to establish the witches. Emperor Heaven, the primordial demon emperor, also relied on Ro to become famous in the prehistoric era and gathered a group of innate living beings and ancestral gods. The ancestral dragon ruled the 4 seas, and the phoenix commanded hundreds of birds. The Duke of the East, the Queen Mother of the West, Empress Hua, Empress Shi, and too many powerful cultivators had shown their prowess in this tribulation. It was easy to imagine what kind of bloodshed the 4 fairy-slaying swords had stirred up when they were in the hands of Luoho. After Ro was defeated, the 4 immortal slaying swords fell into the hands of sect leader Tong Tian. When they appeared again, it was the great tribulation of the immortals, the war of deification. The Jie sect and the Chan sect fought each other to the death. The civil war of the Mystic Door almost cut off the luck of the 2nd generation of the Mystic Door. Countless mighty Dara died and reincarnated, or were apotheosized. The influence did not disappear until the prehistoric era was broken. According to the legend, the 4 immortal slaying swords appeared for the 3rd time when the prehistoric era was broken. Someone once claimed that in the battle to seal Luoho, they had caught a glimpse of the 4 fairy slaying swords. Some said that sect leader Tong Tian despised the 4 fairy slaying swords in the battle of deification, so he abandoned them and sealed Luoho. Some said that after Luoho shattered the untainted land, he attained the great Tao of destruction, and his power skyrocketed. The 4 fairy slaying swords were killing treasures that were compatible with the great Tao of destruction, so they automatically surrendered and fell into the returning ruins. Some said that as the first master of the 4 fairy slaying swords, the 4 fairy slaying swords had his imprint, so he could control them to surrender. Anyway, the most widely spread legend about the 4 immortal slaying swords, the number 1 killing treasure in the postnatal world, was that they finally fell into the ultimate. This scene was witnessed by countless mighty figures, so it was highly credible. Of course, these powerful beings couldn't tell if it was really the 4 immortal slaying swords. They could only sense an extremely terrifying aura that seemed to be able to extinguish all Daos and erase all living things. The 4 sword shadows fell into the ultimate ruin. If the legend was true, then the 3 times the 4 immortal slaying swords appeared in the world, they triggered the devil tribulation of Ro, the war of deification, and the destruction of the prehistoric era. If this was the 4th time, what kind of tribulation would it cause? The falling of all heavens? The ultimate of all Daos? Nothing happens more than 3 times. The 4th tribulation caused by the 4 immortal slaying swords might be more terrifying than the previous 3 combined. It might be the end. The Shui-Tu sect leader's voice trembled. The 4 immortal slaying swords were originally Ro demon ancestors accompanying spiritual treasures. If Ro demon ancestor really summoned the 4 immortal slaying swords at the last moment before being sealed, then it might not be impossible for Ro to use it to break the seal. Everyone, be it the Buddha or the demon, fell silent. This topic was too taboo. You mean? Fan Wu Jie pondered and said, when Ro's old subordinates fought their way into the ultimate, they might have received instructions from Ro and grasped the method to use the 4 immortal slaying swords to break Ro's seal. They even had the ability to use a bit of the power of the 4 immortal slaying sword. As the only surviving Azura king, Shemoli naturally knew this, so he copied the 4 immortal slaying swords and wanted to use this opportunity to seize the sect's number 1 killing treasure. Ro was already sealed. If he could temporarily control the 4 immortal slaying swords through the means left by Ro, it is not impossible. Yuan Yu gasped and said, Shemoli is so ambitious. The Shui-Tu king's voice interrupted and he sat on the ground. Looking at Fajing and the other bald donkeys, he spat on the purple gold alms bowl and said, Bald donkeys, the pockmarks on your heads are not pockmarks, they are scams. You call this the reward for our labor? You know you are not confident, so you want to drag us down with you. So, demon monarch, what do you mean? The Shui-Tu king said with a sad face, I am a direct descendant of the River Styx demon ancestor, the Blood Sea Orthodox. Knowing that Ro demon ancestor wants to break the seal, what can I do? Do I have a choice? He turned and scolded his fellow demon sect Taoists. If any of you dares to run away or slack off, just wait for me to report you to the massacre demon ancestor. The River Styx demon ancestor has the Yuan-Tu sword in his hand and is using the killing calamity. Do you really think you can escape? If you don't do your best, then you are Ro's accomplice. Just wait for your death. It will not be easy even if you die. Don't forget, the Blood Sea River Styx might be in the netherworld. The group of old demons, who had just received the news and were a little absent-minded and distracted, instantly perked up. The demon ancestor had his own way of controlling his subordinates, but none of the demons dared to take the Shui-Tu king's threat lightly. Chapter 1274. This is bad. Cold sweat broke out on Yuan Yu's forehead as he murmured in a daze. But then he forced himself to calm down. He had thought that it would be an easy task, but now it seemed that Ancestor River Styx had dug a big trap for him. The existence of Dara Heaven was meaningless to those who had become Dara. Therefore, the search for Dara Heaven had alarmed countless Taoists from the 3 religions, but none of Dara Heaven had appeared. But the 4 immortal killing swords were completely different. This was the first acquired killing treasure, one of the two most powerful treasures in the untainted land. It could be said to be the treasure of a religion, which could suppress a race and the fate of an era. There was no telling how many grand Luo immortals would be tempted. Fajing had said that few knew of this secret, and the Buddhists had only stumbled upon it by chance because they had planted an undercover agent beside King Shimali, but Yuan Yu did not believe him at all. Shimali was the only person who knew of the secret buried deep within the ultimate. Though he had the protection of the Patriarch of the River Nether that allowed him to avoid many calamities, there were still countless eyes watching him. Could his secret be hidden? The Shui-Tu King sighed and said to the people behind him, "Fellow Taoists, the only thing we can do now is to unite with the Buddhism League and fight to the death against the remaining Ro Heaven. Even if we can't kill them all here, we have to stop their plan to go to the place where Ro Heaven is sealed." In the purple gold alms bowl, Master Fajing stretched out his palm and opened it. There were 2 white ants lying on his palm. He said in a low voice, "When the remaining Ro Heaven came, I felt the fear of these non-Tua ancient ants. I turned my sincerity into auspicious Buddhist light and invited these 2 little creatures to hide in my palm. They were afraid of the aura in the void, so I luckily brought them out." Ajati pondered for a moment and took out an ancient 8 trigrams magical mirror as well. "This is my 8 trigrams spirit turtle magical mirror. When the ancient witchcraft cult used the shell of a spirit turtle for divination, it accidentally produced the image of the 8 trigrams. Later on, the seniors of the witchcraft cult polished it into a turtle mirror." The Shui-Tu King furrowed his brows and said, "Isn't this the old witch's treasure? Why is it in your hands?" The demon monarchs from the diabolism snorted coldly. The veins on the Shui-Tu King's forehead bulged as he gritted his teeth and said, "He faked his death to escape again, didn't he? Sacrificing himself to create the incarnation of the destructive demon god. This old monster has lived for God knows how long. Although he claims to be the 8th cult master of the witchcraft cult, I've long suspected that he's the first cult master of the ancient witchcraft cult. He's been alive until now. He might be the only one who played the role of the cult master of the witchcraft cult. This old thing has eaten the elixir of immortality. Mount Wu has the Emperor's elixir, the 8 monasteries, the yellow bird of Wu, the mysterious snake. I've forgotten about it. The witchcraft cult has the immortal herb. It's guarded by the 10 shamans of Mount Lingshan, namely Wu Xian, Wu Ji, Wu Pan, Wu Peng, Wu Gu, Wu Zhen, Wu Li, Wu Di, Wu Xie, and Wu Luo. They're all the antiques of the ancient witchcraft cult. All of them have consumed the immortal herb and lived until now. Among them, Wu Xian and Wu Peng are Dara Grand Shamans. They're not inferior to the Grand Shamans who killed billions of descendants of Khanate lifeforms and made countless contributions in the war against the demon race. Later on, the witchcraft cult split into 3. They entered Tao, joined the demon race, and integrated into the human race. Wu Peng then led the branch that entered Tao into Tao and became the founder of the mystic door, Ancestor Peng. Wu Xian led 2 branches to seek refuge with the human race. One branch pledged allegiance to the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors and became their subjects. The other branch held the right to offer sacrifices and fought for power with the orthodox of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, the emperor of the human race. In the end, the political struggle failed. The part of the divine right that the witchcraft cult held was seized by the government. The ancient emperor became the supreme ruler of the divine right and was called the son of the Emperor Heaven. In the end, the branch of the witchcraft cult was divided into 2. One of them pledged allegiance to the ancient emperor. The one who was the descendant of the Emperor Heaven became the ancient emperor's subjects. The other part who lost in the struggle joined the devil path and lived in the barbarian land. They used the barbarian land that the ancient emperor could not enlighten to continue the Taoism. The blood-slaughtering demon master was no longer as irascible and reckless as before. After a round of analysis, His thoughts were clear and he had uncovered all the secrets of the demon cult. I know your background, but at the end of the day, the Devil Path is a group of losers who can't survive. Apart from the Blood Sea, River Styx, who has a good backer and has been prosperous ever since the primordial world was established, the other branches of the Devil Path, the Rose branch is being hunted down by all the heavens. As for the other demonic branches, the Rahu clan is being hunted down by the heavens and is viewed as an enemy by the great mediums. Not to mention the fact that the Corpse Demon clan is the dregs of the Netherworld that Patriarch Nether River rescued. They are trash rejected by the Netherworld. The Yin-Yang Demon Master sells their butts and their bodies. Yuan Yu's face darkened as he listened. He secretly clenched his fist. The Shaman Demon is the ancient witchcraft cult. They're the losers in the struggle for divine right. The spirit turtle treasure mirror in Ajati's hand trembled and produced a clear, reluctant sound. The Een demon is the failed experiment of the ancestor River Styx. They're a second-rate substitute for the haunted ghost. The old demons of the Devil Path, who came from the Een demon, looked as if their own mothers had passed away. The old demons who secretly cultivated the sky-burning Een demon immortal body were also a little embarrassed. The great Azura Devil Path is a traitor. Poyaji, who was fighting against some taboos in the distance, roared angrily. The Heart Demon is the mystic door, the trash can of the Buddhist sect. The demon monarch of the Heart Demon was very shrewd. He didn't care at all. He just sneered. The Death Demon tribe is the Netherhell's lackey. There was no demon monarch of the Death Demon here. Everyone smiled in agreement and tacitly slandered the Death Demon. The fiendish demons can't survive in the Archean Fey court. They were bullied so badly by the humans that they could only turn around and hug the legs of the demon ancestor River Styx. The Shwe-Tu king opened his mouth wide. It was more than enough to piss people off. When he said that, the chests of a few old devils, who were obviously not human, rose and fell a little more violently. Sin Demon, Karma Demon, Walking Demon, Vexing Demon, Son of Heaven Demon. Forgive me for being blunt, but aren't they the Buddhist sect's lackeys? A bald demon monarch lowered his head, not daring to look at anyone. The others all glanced at him with a sense of superiority. The scene was immediately filled with a joyous atmosphere. They were even easier to bully than the Netherworld's lackeys, the Death Demon. Master Fajing and the others also turned a deaf ear. Their expressions clearly said, "This is the internal affairs of the Devil Path. The Buddhist sect will not interfere." Earth Demons, when have you ever stopped listening to Her Highness Hutu? In the Earth Demon tribe, even the words of the Shaman Demon carry more weight than yours. Another demon monarch was so shocked that he wanted to die. Ghosts, gods, and devils. There are many big shots, but they all belong to others. The truly powerful ghosts and devils are suppressed in the depths of the Netherworld, and the truly powerful gods and devils form their own lineage. Even if I wanted to ride on their coattails, I couldn't. The demon monarchs of the Ghost Demon and Divine Demon tribe were very calm. After all, their existences were different from these Tao monarchs. They either served in the heavenly court or in the Netherworld. As the heavenly court and the Netherworld fell, they all lost their job. Currently, they were just trying to make a living in the Devil Path. The Disease Demon is doing quite well, but it's a pity that he can't be a pillar of support for the Devil Path. The Disease Demon tribe said, "You're the boss. What you say goes." The Yang Demon and the Realm Demon are the same as the 5 demons. They're all dogs raised by others, but this time, it's the Mystic Door. The Mystic Door sure treats their dogs well. The Shwe-Tu king stared at the demon monarchs of the 2 tribes. I've been watching you for a long time, but I couldn't find any evidence of you leaking information to the Mystic Door. Of course, this doesn't mean that you're innocent. It's just that they've spent a lot on their own people. Their methods are much more brilliant than those stingy bald donkeys. The 2 tribes didn't dare to say anything. They lowered their heads and admitted defeat. The Shwe-Tu king and Ajati fought back against the demon monarchs one by one. No one dared to say anything. The Shwe-Tu king fully demonstrated the chain of contempt within the devil path. The heavenly demon Blood Demon was the direct descendant of the river Styx, the biological sun. The massacred devil path and the red lotus devil path were the orthodoxies of Yuan-Tu's two noses and two swords. They were also the biological sons of the river Styx demon ancestor. However, they were the sons of a concubine and weren't as strong as the legitimate sons. The other demons, witches, and other demons lost in the war and had no choice but to join the devil path. However, they had a deep foundation and were powerful. They were similar to the disease demon, Een demon, heart demon, ghost demon, and other branches of the devil path but weren't powerful enough. They were looked down upon by the four biological sons, but they could despise the middle class. They were the adopted sons of the river Styx demon ancestor. The Azura devil path was the snitch who followed the former demon ancestor Ro. They were the burden left behind by the former demon ancestor. They were looked down upon by their biological sons and adopted sons. Even if they were powerful, they wouldn't be respected. Finally, there were the trash that the other forces didn't want, and the devil path that served as a foil to their existence. They were the death devil, sin devil, karma devil, walking devil, annoyance devil, yang devil, and realm devil. They had a strong bloodline that served as a foil to the righteous path. They were looked down upon by the righteous path and weren't treated well by the devil path either. They were the children of the family that served the young masters. Fan Wujie and the people of the Buddhist path were watching from the side. He quietly pulled Yuan Yu's sleeve and whispered, "Which branch of the devil path does this Shwe-Tu king belong to? Why is no one daring to talk back when he catches them and scolds them?" Yuan Yu's face was dark. He rolled his eyes in annoyance and replied, "Guess it yourself." The Fan clan's third ancestor followed behind the Shwe-Tu king with a straight face, looking like a lackey. When he heard Fan Wujie's words, he laughed softly and said, "Of course it's the direct descendant of the demon ancestor, the Blood Sea branch." The Shwe-Tu king laughed coldly. "Other than the Blood Demon branch, the Heavenly Demon branch, the Killer Demon branch, and the Red Lotus branch, these are the direct descendants of the demon ancestor. The other orthodoxies that belong to the devil path are either the trash of the righteous path or the losers of the battle. The devil path that has been passed down for thousands of years is supported by the Blood Demon branch and the Sky Demon branch. In front of us, don't laugh at your second brother, you're all trash, all trash. The Witch Master is a crafty person. When I saw how he was willing to sacrifice himself for justice, I had my suspicions. The witch cult has been passed down for a long time in the devil path. Although they created something like the devil god of destruction, to say that the Witch Master is dead, I don't believe it." The blood-soaked demon king said, "The sorcerer sect's attainments in the worship of gods and souls are unparalleled in the demonic path. The sorcerer sect wants to fake his death and transform into a strange state. Is there anyone here who can tell? So I didn't think much of it. I'll just pretend that he's dead for now." But now, a dead person came out and pointed fingers at me, and even colluded with the Killer Demon branch. "What are you guys trying to do?" The Shwe-Tu king turned and shouted at Ajati. Ajati smiled and said, "Big brother Shwe-Tu, there's no point in saying it like that. Yes, the Witch Master is colluding with Shimori, but I'm not a part of it. They're just trying to rope me in. It's because of the Yuan-Tu sword." The Shwe-Tu frowned and said, "Yes, the Killer Demon branch is the direct descendant of the demon ancestor, and the Lifeless cult is the direct descendant of the demon ancestor. We've inherited the demon ancestor's murderous tribulation and supreme murderous orthodoxy. The Yuan-Tu sword is our treasure. We have a secret technique that can draw a trace of the power of the Yuan-Tu murderous sword. Although it's only a trace of the power of the Yuan-Tu sword hanging high above the chaos world, and it's far from the effect of controlling the murderous tribulation, it can still draw a billionth of this treasure's power." Ajati said, "That's true. Without your help, Shimori wouldn't have been able to forge the replicas of the 4 immortal slaying swords. These 4 murderous swords are the number 1 post-celestial killing treasures. Even golden immortal Dara could stain them with his blood. How can a mere Azura king like him touch them? Even if it's just a replica, it's impossible. Unless he borrows a trace of the Uentu sword's power to forge the sword embryos of the 4 immortal slaying swords, and uses the common characteristics of the Uentu sword and the 4 immortal slaying swords to forge replicas of the 4 immortal slaying swords. The Shui-Tu king knew the details of the slaughtering demonic path very well. These 2 fellows with ulterior motives came to work with you. Isn't that asking a tiger for its skin? If you knew about the 4 immortal slaying swords, it would be strange if you let go of this opportunity. The Shui-Tu king scoffed at Ajati's character. Ajati didn't feel ashamed. Instead, he said calmly, they thought the same. So, after they pulled me into their trap, they wanted to get rid of me. Master Wu turned from the light to the dark and only left me the spirit tortoise mirror. He wanted to get out of my sight and let me deal with the trouble for them. That's a good plan. Yuan Yu was numb from listening at the side. You bunch of juniors. You really have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. Even I, an old man, can't figure out what's going on. I thought this trip was really for the heaven of Dara. In the end, all of you started plotting against the 4 immortal slaying swords. The slaughtering demonic path definitely wants to use the power of the 4 immortal slaying swords to craft a sword embryo of an acquired spiritual treasure. I guess it's a replica of the Uentu sword. Shimori King used the Uentu sword chi to replicate the 4 immortal slaying swords. The slaughtering demonic path also wants to use the power of the 4 immortal slaying swords to replicate the Uentu sword. This plan is quite ingenious. It's different from the wild imagination of plotting against the 4 immortal slaying swords. This plan really has a chance of success. The juniors nowadays are really impressive when it comes to plotting and scheming. Yuan Yu thought to himself, luckily, I've hidden myself well. I'm an unprecedented 6-fold disguised hero. Now I've only peeled off the second layer of my skin. There's still more to come. Our show is at the end. In this day and age, the more layers of disguise and the longer you hide, the more likely you are to have the last laugh. It's still too early for Ajati to reveal himself. Look at the Shui-Tu king. Not only did he peel off your skin, he didn't reveal anything himself. He's still participating in the later part of the plan as a core member. When the time comes, he'll have a backup plan. Won't Ajati lose some chances? Now that we have the Nantua Ancient Ants, the Spirit Turtle Treasure Mirror, and the Uentu Sword Chi, all of us know cosmic level escape technique. We've fulfilled all the conditions to enter the seal. Next, we'll fight to the death with the remnants of Ro. As long as we obtain the map inside the seal and fellow Taoist Fan Wujie, we'll have all the conditions we need for this trip. Not only can we enter the place where Ro is sealed and find the traces left behind by the 4 immortal slaying swords, we can even open the sky of Dara. Everyone has the chance to prove their Tao in Dara. So this time, our primary objective is to steal the plan and map from the remnants of Ro. The most perfect outcome would obviously be for us to annihilate the remnants of Ro and rid the universe of a great threat. The later part of the plan will be the same as before. Everyone will rely on their own abilities. The second outcome would be to steal the map inside the seal. Only we can enter Ro's seal. The worst outcome would also be our bottom line, to destroy the plans of the remnants of Ro. Even if we can't enter the seal, we definitely can't let them in. If they really have a way to activate the 4 immortal slaying swords and destroy the seal, allowing the demon god of destruction to break out, we'll all be sinners of the universe. Ajati said sternly. The Shui-Tu king pointed at Ajati with a cold smile. You're still hiding something. What is it? The group of demon monarchs turned to look at Ajati. The Shui-Tu king bent his finger and said, the prototype of the acquired spirit treasure made by Uentu's sword energy, which is the replica of the 4 immortal slaying swords in Shemali's hands. It only has a slight resemblance to the original, and it's not enough to complete Shemali's plan. However, he still activated it confidently. This means that there's still a part of the plan, which is the trump card of the remnants of Ro. There must be something in Rahu's hands that contains the true essence of the 4 sword of execution. Only with that will Shamori's replica have the essence of both the true essence of the 4 sword of execution. Only with that will Shamori's replica have a slight chance of success. It's also because of this thing that you're all afraid of fighting with the remnants of Ro. You're afraid that they'll take out the real trump card and make Dara lose his life. That's why Shemali and Master Conjurer hid in the dark. Otherwise, with Shemali's body of Dara, even if we can push through, what can we do to him? You're just trying to trick us into going there, to consume their power and expose their trump card, so that you can take the chance to rob them. I've told you. I've already turned against them. Ajati sneered and said, "There's no trust between us, we're just using each other. On the contrary, you and I, because we're both disciples of the river Styx, there's still a bit of trust between us. You didn't even say anything about using us to consume the remnants of Ro's power," Fan Wujie said in shock. Yuan Yu glanced at him and said, "Calm down, this is the basic operation of our diabolical league." From afar, a world-shaking boom came from the entrance of the Palace of Translucency. King Poya's dead body flew out of the entrance of the Palace of Translucency, forcing back the forbidden existence inside. The group of Diabolical League and Buddhist League old monks glanced at each other and reached a tacit agreement. Yuan Yu sneered and came to the entrance of the Palace of Translucency, pretending that he wanted to steal King Poya's head that had been torn off. However, when he did that, he exposed a trace of space ripple. King Poya turned her head and looked at Yuan Yu. Yuan Yu stuttered, "Sorry for disturbing. I'm just passing by." He passed by the signboard of the Palace of Translucency, pretending to trip over the space warp where the builder tree was. The remnants of Ro who were riding on King Poya's dead body wanted to teach this troublemaker a lesson by squashing this old Taoist to death. However, Yuan Yu's attention was drawn to the sprout of the builder tree. When he saw the 2 Nantua ancient ants crawling on it, he exclaimed, "Nantua ancient ants." He ignored Yuan Yu who was running away and reached for the sprout of the builder tree. Poya Mokuo took out the skull of the Bo Fu demon bird and prepared to keep the 2 Nantua ancient ant. On the other side, Monk Fajing saw Poya Mokuo reaching for the 2 Nantua ancient ants and said anxiously, "Fellow Taoist, why are you so reckless? If the remnants of Ro catch the 2 Nantua ancient ants, we won't be able to hold them back anymore." Then, he was about to take out the purple gold alms bowl to stop them. The people of Diabolical League quickly went to stop him and said, "Those 2 ants are not that simple. Taoist 3 poisons is so evil. He is not reckless at all. He is a cunning old fox, just wait and see what he is going to do." Chapter 1275. Poya Mokuo rode on Dara's corpse and opened her hand. Poya meant brave. At this time, Poya King's corpse was fighting with the forbidden existence in the Hall of Translucence. Although the Azura demon horde had used up more than half of their blood energy, the boiling blood energy had activated the stiff muscles and bones of Dara's corpse. The corpse was stiff because of the blocked blood energy. Burning the blood energy had broken through the stiff blood vessels, allowing Poya King's Dara avatar's battle prowess to increase instead of decreasing. Although the blood energy was not as strong as when it was at its peak, it could still circulate to the ends of the limbs. The originally dark skin became rosy. It could even use the battle techniques of Poya King when she was alive. In the past, Poya Ji's right hand carried the hope of the Azura demon horde and opened up a pure land in the Blood Sea. Now, she once again created a world with her hand. As it approached the builder tree sprout, the sky-covering hand shrank bit by bit. But every time it shrank, it would grow back. As a result, when Poyamakuo's hand reached for the sprout of the Jianmu tree, the sky-covering hand shrank to its normal size and stopped shrinking. Instead, it reached for the 2 grain-sized Nantua ancient ants on the surface of the sprout. Just so. Poya-Mo-Kuo scanned with her divine sense, and came to a realization. The space here is strange. It can actually contain a mountain like a mustard seed and shrink tens of thousands of miles like a house. It must be a restriction of the immemorial demon court that they used to plot against me. But His Majesty's Dara avatar is not as simple as it looks. The Dara avatar is filled with endless divine treasures. Wait, a trace of mockery flashed in the eyes of the demon monarchs. A demon that could force them to flee. How could it be so easy to deal with? Poya-Mo-Kuo reached out to the builder tree. Even though she kept activating her arcane energy to expand the sky-covering hand of the Dara avatar, when she was 3 feet away from the sprout, the sky-covering hand couldn't hold on any longer and started to shrink. Moreover, Poyamakuo's natural predator aura of the great talisman bird's skull finally alerted the 2 little ants lying on the world tree sprout. The ant stared at the bright moon above its head. On the bright moon, at the entrance of a palace that seemed to be in ruins, stood a tiny person that was only a black dot. The little person looked down at the earth, stretched out a palm, and slapped towards the earth. Thus, the creatures on the land saw a huge hand that covered the sky coming down from the moon, and in the middle of the ethereal moon, the moon palace hung high. A plaque faced the boundless earth, and on it were 3 ancient demon characters, Hall of Enlightenment. As the hand got closer and closer to the ground, its volume also became larger and larger. It surpassed mountains, encompassed the sea, and finally reached the extent where it covered half of the continent. This continent was called the Pincer Continent, because according to ancient legends, this long and narrow continent was only the 2 pincers of an unimaginably large ant. Everyone in the Hall of Enlightenment looked from the Hall of Enlightenment to the sprout of the builder tree, feeling that there was a world hidden in the sprout. Their reference was their own vision, and they felt that the sprout of the builder tree grew on the plaque of the Hall of Enlightenment, growing a world. But as long as they looked from the builder tree to the Hall of Enlightenment, they would find that the sprout of the builder tree didn't grow on the plaque of the Hall of Enlightenment. It was as ridiculous as the moon growing on the mouth of a well. Looking at the Hall of Enlightenment from the world tree, the huge Hall of Enlightenment was just a bright white palace that reflected the lustrous jade light. It hung high in the sky like a bright moon, and under his feet was a boundless land. The plaque of the Moon Palace was closest to the boundless land. The Moon Palace was very far from the land, but compared to the land, its volume was much smaller, much smaller. Yuan Yu and the others looked down at the builder tree at the entrance of the Hall of Enlightenment. In the eyes of the creatures on the builder tree, they were just ant-like gods overlooking the earth in the Moon Palace. Now, in the Moon Palace, a slightly larger god, as tall as the gate of the Moon Palace, slapped the earth with his palm. This palm grew with the wind and finally turned into a huge hand that covered the sky and covered the earth. It looked like it was going to cross the long distance between the earth and the moon, slap the earth, and bring a disaster to the creatures on this continent. The creatures on the continent fled, struggled, and resisted in despair. The whole continent trembled because of this huge palm. The powerful primordial species, the strange creatures, the mountain-sized floating mountain dragons, stood in front of this gigantic hand, and their indestructible bodies were smashed into pieces. Countless mountains collapsed, and countless creatures perished. Under this palm, the entire continent was flattened. At this time, 2 huge pillars that supported the sky suddenly rose from the Pincer Continent. The 2 ants on the sprout of the builder tree raised their antennae. The huge palm that hit the pincer and destroyed all the creatures on it was like dust to them. The Nantua ancient ant didn't care at first, but it suddenly felt an extremely uncomfortable aura coming from the Moon Palace. When Poya-Mo-Kuo reached out her hand to the builder tree, her expression changed at first, but she quickly recovered. His divine sense swept out and probed into the void in front of the sprout of the builder tree. Only then did he see that the space he was in had suddenly warped inwards, forming a spherical warp. The surrounding space that extended all around suddenly closed at the edge. The huge Hall of Enlightenment was sealed into a circular planet. The entire space of the Hall of Enlightenment was only a small part of the builder tree. It was just a bright moon hanging on the builder tree. The spherical warp of the bright moon formed a special lens that allowed the line of sight of the moon to be magnified to the entire world. Thus, the original form of the entire world could be seen. The Hall of Enlightenment was not a world, it was only a part of this world. The sprout of the builder tree that they saw was the majority of this world. It was like standing on the moon and looking down at the earth. It felt like the earth was the mouth of a well. It was an illusion that the earth was only the mouth of a well. The huge palm awkwardly pressed on the Nantua ancient ant's pincer. The Nantua ancient ant shook its antennae, burrowed into the void, and opened a wormhole in the direction of the moon palace. Then Yuan Yu and the rest's vision turned dark, and they saw a sky curtain that was even bigger than the Hall of Enlightenment rising in front of them. Even though they were riding on Poya King's incomparably huge corpse, the Azura demons couldn't help but gulp in front of this incomparably huge Nantua ancient ant. Fajing actually felt pity for the remnants of Ro. He patted the two little things on his body, and suddenly wondered, are they really the same species? Could the differences between the individuals of ancient species reach such a degree? Nantua ancient ant. The green-haired zombie's legs trembled, and he said, Nantua ancient ant, is it that big? Shut up. Poya Makuo snorted coldly. We haven't lost yet. King Poya's right palm could lift up a continent and open up a pure land in a dangerous place because there was a world between his palms. That was why he could shackle the shards of Dai Yu Divine Mountain, and even break off a Xian Ming bone spur to open up a palm continent that could block out most of the destructive power of the calamity. However, this was only a manifestation of Poya Ji's Dara divine treasure. Poya Ji was still Dara, who walked the chaotic devil path of Ro. His power was filled with destruction and ominous. He could open up a world with a raise of his hand, but the essence of this world was still illusory, temporary, and even fragile. This kind of divine art that opened up a world with a raise of his hand was for the next step, which was to destroy the fragile world with a flip of his hand. When the illusory existence was destroyed, the incomparable power of the embryonic form of destruction would erupt. Therefore, Poya Ji's complete attack was to raise his hand to strike out the embryonic form of a world, to shackle the enemy in that illusory small world. Then, with a flip of his hand, he would completely destroy the fragile and temporary small world in his hand. Using the power of the world's destruction, he would activate the destructive power of the calamity and strike out a destructive attack, destroying the world in his palm along with the enemy. Before Poya Ji had opened up a pure land in the Sea of Blood, a safe pure land that could withstand countless catastrophes, he had probably never truly tried to maintain this power of creation. The reason why he created this kind of divine art that could open up a world was because of the great destructive power that would erupt the moment his creation was destroyed. When Poya Ji was drowned in the Sea of Blood, he was able to break through the torture of the calamity power of destruction and open up a truly independent world. In fact, he had borrowed the power of the Xianming bone spur and the fragment of Mount Dai Yu in his palm. The Xianming bone spur pierced through King Poya's palm and broke the second half of King Poya's world-destroying divine art, while the fragment of Mount Dai Yu maintained the illusory world that was on the verge of collapse. One of them was like a rock that blocked the second half of the divine art and held up the entire world like a fulcrum. The other one broke the second half of the divine art and nailed it to the right moment. Although the Xianming bone spur had been removed from King Poya's palm, giving his right hand the possibility to perform the second half of the divine art, Mount Dai Yu was still stuck in the illusory world, the only real fulcrum. If he could not destroy the fragment of Mount Dai Yu and this fulcrum, King Poya's corpse would never be able to perform the second half of the divine art. But, if Mount Dai Yu failed to withstand the attack, King Poya might be able to perform the second half of the divine art. The Pure Land that had been stable for countless catastrophes and the fragment of Mount Dai Yu might be able to perform an earth-shattering attack, even surpassing King Poya's strongest power when he was alive. Because this was actually the first half of King Poya's most powerful divine art before he died. After accumulating countless catastrophes, the power of the second half of the divine art had been automatically born. By then, everything in the Pure Land in his palm would become the nourishment for that world-destroying attack. It might even be able to produce the true final solution of Tao. However, the fragment of Mount Dai Yu was still suppressing the embryonic form of the world-destroying attack, so Poya Mo couldn't perform the second half of the divine art. However, Yuan Yu had reason to believe that this was one of the trump cards of the remnants of the Rou clan. Now, Poya Mo could only borrow the vast power of the world in King Poya's palm to transform it into a divine art to imprison the target in her palm. That complete form of the divine art should have contained the ability to create a world with the raise of a hand and destroy a world with the flip of a hand. However, it was stuck between the first half of the form evolving into the second half. It had evolved into a supreme divine art that could confine a great world, borrowing the power of the world in his palm to suppress the enemy. With a swing of his hand, it wasn't as simple as the strike that Buddha had used to suppress Monkey Sunday. How could two Nantua ancient ants escape from this level of Dara divine art? After this attack, Poya Mo calmed down and thought to himself, "Got it." He was confident that if this attack wasn't aimed at his biggest target, the Nantua ancient ants, it would be enough to kill anyone here. If the Nantua ancient ants weren't an important factor in his plan, he wouldn't have wasted this chance here. This attack was already the full power of King Poya's Dara conjured body. This consumption was even greater than when he had controlled the corpse to fight the forbidden existence for so long. With this attack, 80% of the blood and chi of Dara that they had sacrificed their boundless tribulations had been used up. At most, they would only be left with the power of one last attack. However, Poya Mo felt that it was worth it. This attack had pried up the power of the world in the palm, giving it another heavy kick to the world that was already on the verge of collapse. Now, the world in the palm that had protected them from the boundless tribulations was on the verge of destruction. With one last attack, the destructive tribulation power would naturally change and crush the fragments of Dai Yu Divine Mountain. Then, the second half of the divine art would be unleashed and the strongest attack King Poya's corpse had ever unleashed. It could be said that when Dara used his full power, it could crush everything in its path. Compared to the fiend cultists of destruction, the Rahu remnant's final form of Tao disintegration was countless times more powerful. It was a strike that could truly threaten a Grand Luo, and even kill a Grand Luo avatar. In the heavens, this Nantua ancient ant was already an unimaginably terrifying monster. Even so, before the greatest power of all worlds, the Grand Luo, the inconceivable power of such a frightening body was nothing. Brahma Wu Jie had seen with his own eyes the power of a world as the skull of the talisman Count Bird turned into a cage, imprisoning the unimaginably colossal Nantua ancient ant. At this time, King Poya's conjured body had used up all of its energy and could not adjust itself anymore. However, with the defense of Rou's corpse, the group of demon monarchs could not find a chance to attack. After a few breaths, King Poya had used up all of her technique. She raised her blood chi again. The Nantua ancient ant could not break free from the restraints of the talisman bird's chi and Dara. Although King Poya's conjured body only had one last attack left, it could still unleash the final Tao at any time. Facing this trump card, no one would be able to break free. "So this is your second trump card," Yuan Yu said in a low voice. "You should have 3 trump cards." the thing that contains the essence of the 4 immortal execution swords, the final Tao of King Poya's corpse. Each of these cards is enough to threaten Dara. No wonder Shemoli did not dare to attack. Then, the last trump card is, it should be now. Yuan Yu thought, if Shemoli wants to attack, now is the best time. But Poya Mokuo should also be waiting for this chance. The last trump card might have been prepared for this moment. Yuan Yu secretly held onto a jade talisman and prepared to activate the secret signal that they had agreed on. However, the moment King Poya's conjured body captured the Nanto ancient ant, a confident smile appeared on his face. He had secretly prepared an item. Meanwhile, the other Azura and Demon Monarchs were carefully watching out for the movements of the Demon Monarchs and Buddhist Monarchs to prevent them from interfering. Now that the Demon Monarchs and Buddhist Monarchs were powerless to interfere with the development of the situation, Yuan Yu prepared a trump card. Rose Corpse played a small king card. King Shemoli was temporarily useless, but there were still 2 bombs secretly prepared. At this crucial moment, Poya Mokuo's face suddenly showed a trace of astonishment and disbelief. King Poya's corpse flipped its hand and caught the Nantua ancient ant. The giant ant was caught in King Poya's hand and was suppressed by the destructive tribulation power and the fragment of Dai Yu Divine Mountain. But at this moment, the god contained in the living blood in King Poya's heart suddenly died. The living blood was turned into corpse blood by a strange poison. King Poya's lifelike corpse instantly turned green and black. This backlash followed the inexplicable connection that Poya Mokuo had formed with the god she sacrificed to. It attacked Poya Mokuo's body, causing him to be heavily injured. At this time, a person came to Poya Mokuo's side and easily captured him. Poya Mokuo looked at that person with an expression that could not be described with words. "It's you. It's me." That person smiled faintly. Green corpse hair fluttered in the air. It was Fan Wujie and Yuan Yu's old acquaintance, the green-haired corpse. How could it be him? So it's him. Fan Wujie and Yuan Yu were either stunned, or suddenly realized what was going on. As a grand heavenly immortal, she hid an immeasurable tribulation among a group of pitiful worms in the blood sea extremity. Poya Matso's loss was not unjustified. Yuan Yu's tone was eerie, and it carried a trace of terrifying coldness. Chapter 1276. Everyone was shocked by this turn of events, not knowing how to react. After the living blood in Poya King's corpse was turned into poisonous blood, and even the god in the blood was killed by some unknown method, Dara's corpse underwent some strange changes. His divine body, which was slowly recovering along with the circulation of his blood and chi, instantly deteriorated. Large amounts of blood clots and livor mortis spots appeared on the surface of his divine body. The males of Azura were ugly to begin with, and now that their divine blood and marrow were poisoned, their corporeal bodies began to stiffen, making them look even more hideous. Shue-Tu King was familiar with this method. He thought to himself, Dara's avatar is hard to kill. Even after being trapped in the blood calamity eye for so many years, it still has a trace of vitality and potential. After being nourished by the living blood offered by the Luo remnants, it almost came back to life. I thought it would be a great enemy of our sect, but this Dara's corpse that was in Poya Mokuo's hands just now was destroyed by this person. To be able to tamper with Dara's avatar in the Luo remnants' plan for the immeasurable calamity, he must not be an ordinary person. Let's just wait and see. Anyway, the ones who are most anxious to deal with this person are the betrayed Luo remnants, the Azura demon horde. Shue-Tu King and Great Master Fajing looked at each other and came to a silent agreement to let the dogs fight each other. Poya Mokuo, who was captured by the green-haired mummy, calmed down and said in a low voice, "Good. We, the demon ancestor of Luo, are so lucky to have troubled you to hide by my side for so long? Luo Qian, I didn't know you had such a method, to be able to taint my king's corpse right under my nose. You are so patient. I thought the few kings had used the immeasurable calamity to set up a trap and erased all traces of our plan. You are already patient enough. We have endured until all the worlds have forgotten us, until the battle back then has become a legend. I didn't expect there to be someone more patient than us, hiding among us from the beginning. Are you one of River Styx's demon ancestors' men, or have you sided with the mystic door? Poya emo kuo. The green-haired mummy sighed. You are wrong. When you conspired with the immortal execution swords, you should have known that the time of the immortal execution swords was not enough to erase all traces. If you just wanted to escape, that would have been more than enough. But what you want to do is far more than that. I know you think that the Nether River Demon Ancestor trapped you in the Blood Sea impasse to make use of you. I know you want to use the 4 immortal slaying swords to bait the Nether River Demon Ancestor. You had a good plan. The immortal execution swords are the #1 killing treasures in the post-celestial world. Even great mediums would be tempted. You thought that the River Styx demon ancestor trapped you in the blood sea of calamity to deceive others and use you to trick the immortal execution swords into Law's hands. As long as the demon ancestor wanted to use your greed, you would have space to move. You didn't have Dara's protection, so you wanted to use the River Styx demon ancestor to help you block the other Dara's line of sight. You used the Shimori to release some specious news in order to attract other great mediums to intervene at the critical moment, stirring up this mess. Finally, you created an opportunity for you to come into contact with Demon Ancestor and let the 2 Demon Ancestor personally wrestle with each other. So, although you asked me if I was from the Demon Ancestor or the Mystic Door, you didn't think that I was from the River Styx Demon Ancestor. Because if I was from the Demon Ancestor, I would have secretly protected you when you entered the Sealed Land. If I didn't enter the Sealed Land, how would the River Styx Demon Ancestor have the chance to snatch the immortal execution swords? The green-haired mummy grinned. But you were wrong about one thing. The River Styx Demon Ancestor doesn't care about the immortal execution swords at all, and the sect leader of Tongtian doesn't care. The immortal execution swords contain the great Tao of destruction. It is destined to destroy the chaotic world in the future. Whoever holds it will form a great karma with the universe and become the future demon ancestor of destruction. The great god Pangu split the heavens and earth apart did not have a good ending. Will the demon ancestor of destruction have a good ending when he destroys the heavens and earth? The green-haired mummy said disdainfully, If you think about it, you will know that it is impossible. After the great Tao of destruction destroys everything, the next to be destroyed is Luo himself. It is fated that the demon ancestor of destruction will destroy the world with the immortal execution sword. Therefore, although this treasure has supreme power, many great mediums avoid it. Back then, the River Styx ancestor worked hard to trick demon ancestor Luo into taking the blame and becoming the destruction demon ancestor with the darkest future. After Luo achieved the great Tao of destruction, the sect leader of Tongtian took the initiative to send the immortal execution swords over. It is obvious that he wants you to die. Luo was born from the resentment of the 3,000 chaotic gods and demons. He was born with the great destiny to overthrow the chaotic world. He is the destined devil tribulation of chaos. Later, the great god Pangu split the chaotic demon ancestor into 2 and created the blood sea River Styx to balance it. The River Styx ancestor restrained the demon ancestor Luo, causing many great mediums to come into being and start the first chaos tribulation. In this tribulation, the great mediums worked together and took away the immortal execution sword formation, which was destined to destroy the world. It was suppressed by the sect leader of Tongtian. However, this also caused the sect leader of Tongtian's destiny to be shaken, causing many great mediums to be afraid. In the Battle of God's Investiture, several great mediums cooperated to suppress the sect leader of Tongtian and broke up the Jie sect. The 4 immortal execution swords were suppressed by 4 great mediums. On the eve of the chaotic world's destruction, the river Styx ancestor calculated the fate of the devil Tao. One was a Tao orthodoxy that lasted for 3,000 chaotic gods and demons and had the duty to destroy the world. The other was a orthodoxy that continued the great god Pangu and had the merit to save the world. Originally, the destiny of the devil Tao was divided into 2 branches. One was the slaughter demon ancestor that operated the killing tribulation, and the other was the destruction demon ancestor that was destined to destroy the universe. With these 2 ancestors, the devil Tao had endless internal conflicts. However, the righteous Tao followed the will of heaven and feared the will of heaven. The devil Tao wanted all of them. That was why the river Styx ancestor set up a trap to suppress Luo and devour the destiny of the destruction lineage of the devil Tao. Look at the devil Tao that cultivates the path of destruction now. How many branches still respect the demon ancestor Luo? The river Styx ancestor made this move with the great mediums. He set up a trap to suppress Luo, so that the destruction chi after the destruction of the chaotic world would catalyze the birth of the destruction demon god. In the end, it catalyzed a destruction demon ancestor that had already been suppressed. In this way, the innate demon god born from the great Tao of destruction was suppressed and continued the destiny of the chaotic world. After Luo was suppressed, sect leader Tongtian found the 4 immortal slaying swords again and threw them into the ultimate Luo's seal, preparing to plan a great opportunity to let this devil god of destruction come out at the right time to bear the fate. After the world was destroyed, they could open up another universe. Puyamoko shook her head and said, "Impossible. Master has already proven the great Tao of destruction. In the seal, he can already control his own desire to destroy and control the great Tao of destruction. As the world gradually falls and is destroyed, Master will become stronger and stronger. In the end, he will surpass all the great mediums and destroy the chaotic world. At that time, the great mediums whose power comes from the foundation of the existence of Tai Chi will weaken, and Master will become unprecedentedly strong. He can even conquer everything and open up a devil Tao universe." "You are not Dara." The green-haired corpse looked at him with a hint of sadness and mockery. He put his hands behind his back and said, "The origin of the chaotic world, the secret of the 3,000 chaotic demons, the birth of demon ancestor Luo, and even the creation of the world by Pangu. There are too many secrets hidden in the history of the chaotic world. Sometimes, the truth becomes a rumor, but the rumor forces the truth. The moment demon ancestor Luo proved his great Tao and was destroyed, his fate was sealed. I can only say that in the game of the devil Tao, Luo never had the upper hand. During the chaos of Luo, you swept through the chaotic world and caused a great calamity. River Styx demon ancestor created the Azura clan in the Blood Sea, but he drove you to Luo's side and cut off your relationship with the Chaos Demon ancestor. In the end, you became the thorn in the side of all the great mediums. River Styx, on the other hand, had the merit of saving the world and cut off the old devil Tao, making his own orthodoxy the orthodox Pangu Tao. When Demon Luo invaded the chaotic world, when the great forces were all gone, who could the forces he left behind, which were regarded as enemies by the entire chaotic world, go to? In the end, didn't they join the devil Tao and seek protection from River Styx? My king is also Dara. The great Azura kings are also Dara. There's no way they wouldn't tell us any secrets." Poyamakuo roared. "There are some things that they can't say." The green-haired corpse sneered. "The history of the chaotic world is destiny, and destiny is hard to change." This cold and contemptuous laugh smashed into the hearts of the Azura demons. At first, when they saw the traitor, the green-haired corpse, the Azura demons clenched their teeth and wanted to bite off a piece of his flesh. They suppressed their killing intent and carefully looked for an opportunity to save Poyamakuo and give the green-haired corpse Luo Qian a fatal blow. At first, they were filled with anger, but they had to suppress it and wait for an opportunity like a poisonous snake. The suffering of the immeasurable cataclysm had made them have enough patience. As the secrets revealed by Luo Qian became more and more terrifying, they discovered that there was a huge shadow controlling their fates from beginning to end. It was the Nether River Patriarch who created them and then mercilessly abandoned them, a name that made all the Asuras feel conflicted. The ancestor of the Nether River hated the Asura tribe because they were the impurities left behind by the chaotic gods and demons. Once upon a time, the Asura tribe also had reverence and respect for the Creator, but in the end, they were rejected outside the Blood Sea. The cold reality of the untainted land made all Asura sober. They turned to Luo, the generous master, and fought for him endlessly. They bled and sacrificed countless lives. The Asura tribe was a wanderer without a home. The only thing they could offer was loyalty. Therefore, after Luo was defeated, they didn't abandon him. After Luo was sealed, the great Asura kings decided to enter the ultimate to save their master. They followed him without any regrets. Because other than loyalty, they didn't know what else they had. Because other than loyalty, they didn't know how to face the corpses of their Asura tribe that had piled up like mountains and flowed like oceans. Under the torture of the immeasurable cataclysm in the Blood Sea, they gritted their teeth and persevered. There were thousands of soldiers under Luo and his people in Jingzai. In the end, except for those traitors who were afraid of sacrifice and suffering, there were only those who could be counted with the fingers of the Asura tribe, the remnants of Luo. Remnants. Who else was left? But this suffering that was higher than the mountains and deeper than the sea, in the mouth of a person who disguised himself as his own people, was just a sentence: Heaven's will is hard to defy. It was Heaven's will that the ancestor river Styx created the Asura tribe. It was also Heaven's will that the ancestor river Styx drove them away. It was Heaven's will that Lord Luo accepted these wanderers. It was also Heaven's will that they struggled in every way, fought unyieldingly, and shed their last drop of blood. It was Heaven's will that the only supporter they were loyal to collapsed. Even the last hope and struggle were ridiculous, meaningless, and stupid in the eyes of the traitors, because Heaven's will was hard to defy. What is Heaven's will? When Yuan Yu saw that, he remembered Zhao Gongming's indescribable sigh before he split heaven and earth apart. Great divinities are the will of the heavens, the game of great divinities is the will of the heavens, and the will of the many grand Luo is the will of the heavens. We are only a part of Heaven's will. Heaven's will is hard to defy. Heaven's will is hard to defy? Poyamakuo's lips trembled and her voice trembled. Is this our great sin? We, the Asura tribe, were created by the demon ancestor river Styx, but we were looked down upon by the demon ancestor. We followed the only person who was willing to take us in, demon ancestor Luo, but we were defeated again and again. Over the years, the blood of the Asura tribe has been drained, flowing into a sea of blood, converging into a river of blood. I have seen too many of my people fall beside me, in front of my eyes. You only remember that we wreaked havoc in the world and caused a great calamity. Who remembers the time when we were at the end of our rope? Who remembers that our blood was shed together? This world did not give the Asura a chance, so we could only choose one path, and walk down it without any regrets. Never regret, never give up. Our king is also Dara, the Asura kings are also Dara. They also know that Heaven's will is hard to defy, but they still chose to walk down it. Poyamakuo clenched her fists and said, Now that you have succeeded, it is only my failure, it is not the Asura tribe, it is not the king's failure. I, Poyamakuo, am the sinner of the Asura tribe. But the Asura tribe will not submit to Heaven's will. Luo Qian sneered. Perhaps they have already found a way out. Dara's chance is far more than you can imagine. To all of you, the fate of struggling endlessly and resisting in despair is but a game of the grand immortal realm. You treat them as kings. but they treat you as chess pieces. Do you still not understand? Luo Qian clasped his hands behind his back, and said, Heaven's will is that the great god Pangu slaughtered 3,000 Chaos Fiend gods and created the Chaos Primal World. The Chaos Demon ancestor Luo was born to destroy the Chaos Primal World. The Chaos Demon ancestor was tainted by Pangu's blood essence, and created the Chaos Demon ancestor Luo's body. The blood essence of Pangu gave birth to the consciousness of ancestor River Styx. He cut off the impurities and created the Azura tribe. He returned to Pangu and saved the world. Luo led a group of Chaos Fiend gods and demons to create the first calamity of Primal World. He used the immortal execution 4 swords to slaughter the Chaos Primal World. In the end, he was defeated by the powerful expert. In order to make up for the karma of Pangu slaughtering the Chaos Fiend gods, Ancestor River Styx planned to turn Luo into the demon god of destruction. Tong Tian returned the immortal execution 4 swords to complete the heaven's will. Ancestor River Styx planned to seal the demon god of destruction, destruction demon ancestor Luo in the ultimate. When the end of the world came, the seal would be broken. Luo would come out and destroy the world. This is the general trend of Primal World. This is the heaven's will. This is the heaven's will that cannot be defied. And you just want to go against the heaven's will. It's just a small countercurrent in the process. It's just a confrontation between the righteous, evil, and demons. In front of the heaven's will, Dara is just an ant. Even your master Luo, demon ancestor, cannot go against it. This small countercurrent. You want to overturn the heaven? Luo Qian shook his head and laughed. Isn't this ridiculous? This is more laughable than a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It's more arrogant than an ant trying to shake a tree. Great Master Fa Jing chanted the name of Buddha and remained silent. The group of demon lords trembled. They felt as if they had heard something unbelievable. Would they be killed by demon ancestor? This is not ridiculous, Poyamakuo said in a low voice. To us, Azura, this is not ridiculous. Who cares? The green-haired corpse retorted. In front of the heaven's will, I am just an ant. But I know the heaven's will. As long as I don't go against the heaven's will, I can interfere. Although I don't dare to use the 4 immortal slaying swords, I can find a way to take out a killing sword. The great mediums won't care, and the heavens won't care either. This is the saying, if the heavens will not change, the great mediums can go against it. My power is 1,000,000 times stronger than yours, but I still don't dare to go against the heavens' will. What right do you have to save Luo? Instead of wasting your lives in this meaningless struggle, why don't you create an opportunity for me? Luo Qian said, That's why I let go of my pride as Dara and schemed against you. That's why I disguised myself as an Azura and stayed safely in the Blood Sea for countless eons. Poyamakuo, you have done well enough. You have never really trusted anyone. A group of your kind has followed you loyally through the immeasurable eons. You still haven't told anyone about the plan to save Law. You just buried a few foreshadowing, just in case. After you die accidentally, the plan can still be carried out smoothly. For example, that golden turtle. For example, that blood god you sacrificed. How many people know that the blood god sacrificed by Poyamakuo is the one you truly trusted? Unfortunately, these little tricks are useless against the shameless Dara. That's why I secretly made a move during the sacrifice. That's why I also set up an ambush in Poyamakuo's corpse. That's why I knew all of your plans. That's why I waited until you gathered everything, then I immediately attacked and captured you. You asked me why I didn't do it earlier, but you didn't know that now is the best time for me. I have to focus on dealing with Luo in the seal. If I let Luo control you pawns, then it will be the real trouble for me. But now, if Dara doesn't come out, what can he do to me? And even if Dara is hiding in the dark, so what? Didn't you prepare weapons for me? Luo Qian smiled and said, Each of you is the prototype of the final Tao solution, a living calamity of destruction. With the corpse of Poyamakuo, sacrificing any one of you will be able to unleash a calamity of destruction equivalent to Poyamakuo's full power when she was alive. If you, the descendant of Poyamakuo, are sacrificed, you will even be able to unleash a strike that can threaten Dara. Furthermore, there is also the trump card that you have prepared. Poyamakuo's accumulated calamity of destruction and evolved it into a world-destroying divine ability. Shemoli, that coward, betrayed you in order to survive. Now, in order to survive, he can only swallow his anger and watch as I snatch away the opportunity that he has prepared for the calamity of destruction. And this. Luo Qian reached out his hand, and an ordinary-looking talisman floated out from Poyamakuo's sea of consciousness. Immortal Execution Sword Talisman. It is formed from the sword chi that can draw a trace of the essence of the 4 immortal execution swords. It is also the trump card that Luo gave you to activate the 4 immortal execution swords and save him. What a joke! Even if the 4 immortal execution swords were used together with the immortal execution sword formation, it might not be able to save him, let alone a trace of its power. But with this, I might be able to take one of the killing swords. I still have to thank you all. At this moment, the Azura demon horde couldn't bear it anymore. One of them suddenly went berserk, destroying himself with the tribulation power. The majestic 9 tribulations of destruction came out at the same time, forming a trace of the embryonic form of the ultimate Tao solution. As soon as he attacked, a boundless destructive storm appeared. It was as if he was facing Dara head-on. Luo Qian just smiled, and the corpse of Poyamakuo behind him opened its eyes, fixing the destructive tribulation in the void. With a flip of its right hand, the corpse of Poyamakuo was imprisoned in the world in the center of its palm, and suppressed under the celestial land. The ultimate Tao solution in this life turned into a divine art that was suppressed in the palm of Poyamakuo's corpse. Although Buddhist sects Reverend Fajing didn't sympathize with these Azura remnants, he couldn't help but sigh. Luo Qian's words weren't false. These annihilation demon followers were either tampered with, or Dara's divine art was more terrifying than expected. They were directly crushed and turned into fuel for Poyamakuo's corpse that Luo Qian was controlling. Every one of them could be sacrificed to trigger a terrifying divine art of destruction. But even so, the annihilation demon followers and the Azura demon followers still charged at Luo Qian, burning themselves with the most dazzling attack. Luo Qian reached out a hand, and the corpse of Poyamakuo behind him also reached out a hand. It was the great world suppression that Poyamakuo used to suppress the Nantua ancient ants, borrowing the power of a world to suppress the annihilation demon followers, making them look like little bugs trapped in a space-time amber. The situation was despairing. After Luo Qian suppressed all the Azura demon disciples, he turned to look at the Buddhist sect and demon sect. He shook his head and said, "After all, you are people with powerful backgrounds. I can't bully the weak and make things difficult for you. If you turn around and leave, I won't pursue the matter. But if you still want to compete with me for this good fortune, then we'll have to use our own methods." Of course, no one thought that when he said to use their own methods, it was a fair competition. It was clearly by hook or by crook. In other words, if you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for bullying the weak. Everyone looked at each other, their eyes filled with helplessness and sorrow. Since Dara has already made a move, what are we still fighting for? We can just slip away. Therefore, they all bade farewell and prepared to leave. Just as Fan Wujie sighed and was about to return to clean up the mess, Luo Qian called out to him, "Little friend, please wait a moment. I've long heard of the wonders of the Daluo heaven, and I would like to experience it for myself. I wonder if little friend is willing to fulfill my wish?" Fan Wujie looked up and saw that Luo Qian's face was as calm as still water. Did he have any other choice? So he followed behind Luo Qian helplessly, but at this time, he heard a cautious voice. It was Yuan Yu who was discussing with Luo Qian in a slippery and timid manner. Heavenly Lord, that fan brat and I are best friends, and we're sworn brothers. We have a deep relationship, so I really can't leave him behind and go alone. I hope Heavenly Lord can allow me to follow you. Luo Qian glanced at Fan Wujie. Although Fan Wujie didn't know what kind of medicine Yuan Yu was selling in his gourd, but he believed that there was nothing wrong with dragging an acquaintance down with him. Even if he died, he would at least be able to bring someone down with him. So, he nodded to indicate that Yuan Yu was telling the truth. Luo Qian frowned and said, "Do you think I'm your servant and you can order me around?" Yuan Yu nodded and bowed. With the corpse demon Dao Master above, of course I wouldn't dare, but after all, I'm a member of the demon sect, so you should at least give me some convenience. I'm a direct disciple of the Yin-Yang Demon Master. If the corpse demon Dao Master can give me some convenience, I'll definitely repay you in the future. You're quite perceptive. Luo Qian smiled coldly. Since you're the disciple of the Yin-Yang Demon Ancestor, that two-faced man, it wouldn't be good for me to not take care of you. However, life and death are decreed by fate, so I can't guarantee your safety on this trip. Yuan Yu's face twitched. What two-faced man? This bastard is still as annoying as ever. But when they heard that Yuan Yu had exposed his identity, everyone from the Buddhist and Demon Dao paused for a moment, and immediately began to plan their own little schemes. The Demon Dao racked their brains, wondering if they could form a relationship with this demon master and freeload some benefit. The Buddhist Dao, on the other hand, was calculating the pros and cons, wondering where they could get Dara of the Buddhist Dao Master to fight with this corpse demon Dao Master. Chapter 1277. The green-haired mummy stood facing Fan Wujie and Yuan Yu. Its temperament was already very different. When Dara acted as a disguise, it did some shameless things. For example, when the mummy was lurking, it did many things that did not match its identity, and looked quite embarrassed. But once it recovered its identity as Dara, it naturally had its own temperament. Now, the mummy did not seem to care about the previous performance. Obviously, it had surpassed the realm of being one with the performance, and reached a higher realm of performance. After the realm of seeing a mountain not as a mountain, and seeing water not as water, the mountain was still a mountain, and the water was still water. To be honest, Yuan Yu's acting level was deeper, and the roles he played were more three-dimensional and rich, but it was not as vivid as the mummy. Yuan Yu recalled the scene when they first met. The mummy vividly portrayed a character who was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. He was desperate, crazy, and even a little hysterical. It was no wonder that he could hide among the demon followers of Azura without exposing himself at all. He even played dumb and embarrassed himself in order to weaken his aura of zenith heaven to the greatest extent, without arousing any suspicion. As the pinnacle existence of the universe and even the primordial era, Grand Luo could be said to be high and mighty. It was easy for him to act cool, but he was not willing to damage his own cool and embarrass himself. Even when he was threatened by Fan Wujie and intimidated by the two weaklings, he still did not move an inch. He allowed those weaklings who were far weaker than him to flaunt their prowess and did not put on any act. This was very rare. Some people could not let go of Dara, no matter what disguise it wore, the core was still Dara. Therefore, they could only be Dara for the rest of their lives, and could not reach the peak of acting. Therefore, people like Yuan Yu, who were at the bottom, learned to be slippery, could bear the humiliation, could bear the mockery, and even did not hesitate to destroy its own image to live in the world as a pimp, wearing a disguise. Or people like Dao Master Corpse Demon, who could bear the loneliness, remembered the image, and was determined to be ruthless, and could easily extricate itself from the role. Only then would he have the opportunity to step into the upper echelons of the primordial world's entertainment circle and obtain those opportunities that Dara, who couldn't let go of her status, could never get in her entire life. The corpse demon religion leader was indifferent as he smiled and said, "Two little brothers, we meet again. Great divine seat, are you prepared to crush me with a finger? The corpse demon path master turned to Fan Wujie with a playful expression on his mummified face. Fan Wujie coughed again and again, his face turning purplish red due to the awkwardness. He looked helpless and embarrassed. You could tell with a glance that he was acting. They were probably afraid that the path master of Corpse Demon would hold a grudge against them. They were afraid that the path master of Corpse Demon would kill them out of jealousy after witnessing the sorry state he was in when he was undercover. This was definitely not a groundless fear. In fact, although there were rumors in the human world that great mediums were usually magnanimous, this only expressed the desire of the small figures who spread these rumors. They hoped that these big figures would be magnanimous and not be too calculative. But in reality, there weren't many things that were worthy of the attention of the great mediums, but face was definitely one of them. Wu Jie failed to recognize the true dragon. Now that I have offended you, I can only let you punish me, Fan Wu Jie said anxiously. However, the corpse demon path master waved his hand and said, Dao Friendshaw, you must be joking. Sigh. I haven't seen you for a long time. I wonder if Dao Friendshaw has avenged your family's blood feud. Dao Friendshaw and I have a very close relationship. You have a huge feud with the righteous path because of your family's destruction. I have always been close to you, so how can I not remember it? Now that a group of bald donkeys from the Buddhist League is here, go and kill them. If anything happens, I will take care of it for you. You must let my brother vent his anger. Don't you think so? Kill Dao friend Wu Sheng. The words, kill Dao friend Wu Sheng, made Fan Wu Jie tremble all over, and he could not stand steadily. He swayed back and forth, sweating profusely. He kept wiping the sweat with the corner of his clothes, looking extremely terrified. Yuan Yu secretly sighed at the side and said, He has learned bad things. When he first entered the returning ruins, Wu Jie was such an innocent child. When he had doubts about my identity, I could see it from his face. Now, he is also a person who has entered the path of acting. This performance vividly showed his fear, helplessness, embarrassment, and humbleness. He must have thought it through in an instant. To dispel the killing intent of the big shots, acting like a clown is the most useful. Being funny was the best disguise to dispel the hostility of the big shot. Even the emperors who held the power of life and death were no exception, otherwise, why would there be the existence of jesters? Fan Wu Jie's life had been smooth sailing before, and he had never played a dirty game like Dara. Now that he had seen more and played a few rounds, didn't he understand it easily? He was knowledgeable, and the Fan clan was no different from the Emperor of Heaven in the Brahma Heaven realm. The old fellows of the Fan clan schemed and plotted against each other, and their politics were also full of levels. It was just that Fan Wu Jie did not need to use them in the past, so he could naturally be high and mighty. But now that he needed to use these skills to save his life, Fan Wu Jie immediately learned them. Fan Wu Jie's face was pale, and he looked like he was about to faint. It was hilarious. The corpse demon Dao Master also laughed loudly. All right. Stop pretending. Kill Wusheng, have you forgotten about the great cause of saving the annihilation demon ancestor, destroying the heavens and creating the eternal demon realm? Fan Wu Jie's body trembled once more, and his expression suddenly became rich. His lips trembled twice, and his eyes were filled with hot tears, as if he was recalling some past events that he could not bear to recall. He clenched his fists tightly and said emotionally with tears in his eyes, Thank you, Senior, for showing mercy. The corpse demon Dao Master patted him on the shoulder and said sincerely, After all, I still need you to bring me to Dara Heaven. Fan Wu Jie smiled bitterly. Why are you so confident in me, brother? Although everyone says that I can find Dara Heaven is a mysterious place that all the Dao Lords in the heavens have been searching for countless years. I'm just a Dao Lord, and I'm not even ranked in the heavens. How can I find Dara Heaven that no one has found for countless years? The corpse demon Tao Master didn't answer, but smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if you can't find it, I'm not a demon. I see that you have great potential, and if you can't find it, you can be my disciple." Fan Wujie seemed to be moved, and Yuan Yu moved closer and whispered, "The corpse demon Tao usually doesn't take in living people." Fan Wujie turned around and glared at him, but his mouth didn't move. He lowered his voice and said, "Then what do they take in? The living dead." Yuan Yu said with ventriloquism, "The direct disciples of the corpse demon Tao Master are even more incredible. They don't even care about the living dead that the netherworld doesn't take in. At least, they have to be like the corpse god old man who has cultivated the 9 deaths reincarnation heaven-deceiving art. He died and came back to life, and then died again, repeating it so many times that even the netherworld doesn't want him anymore." Fan Wujie shuddered and didn't dare to bring up the subject anymore. Otherwise, he wouldn't have cared so much. He would just kowtow and ask for the corpse demon Tao Master's thigh first. The corpse demon Tao Master turned to Yuan Yu and said playfully, "Fellow Taoist of the Yin-Yang demon Tao, you are quite knowledgeable to see through my identity. I would like to know, how did you see through my identity?" Yuan Yu said respectfully, "Because of the corpse god old man." "The corpse god old man?" The corpse demon Tao Master's eyes flashed, and he said in a low voice, "You know about the Hades 9 questions? I know a thing or two. The corpse god old man cultivates a forbidden art, the 9 deaths reincarnation heaven-deceiving art. This great art of the demon Tao focuses on leaving a corpse alive, walking between life and death, facing the horror within, and ushering in a metamorphosis. In the end, after 9 deaths and deceiving the reincarnation heaven-deceiving art, I surpass the limits of my true spirit and escape the cycle of reincarnation. This forbidden art is feared by the netherworld, so it's extremely difficult to cultivate. Even if you don't cultivate it and only know a thing or two about it, you will die a horrible death for no reason. Therefore, it's impossible to spread it. The corpse god old man obtained this art either from the slaughter demon ancestor or the corpse demon Tao Master. The corpse god old man 9 deaths reincarnation heaven-deceiving art needs to prove his Tao in a place where the netherworld can't reach. This is to avoid any horrible mishaps during the metamorphosis, so he chose the sealed dreamland. But no matter what, the 9th metamorphosis not only violates the authority of the netherworld, but also the laws of reincarnation. Even in the returning ruins, he can't avoid it unless he reaches a secret realm that is impervious to all tribulations, where all time and space are eternal and free. Therefore, the genius of Dara is the corpse god old man Tao, but to enter Dara heaven, not only must he enter the place where Patriarch River Styx sealed row, he also needs someone who cultivates the innate time Tao to lead the way. But the corpse god old man just watched Taoist Fan leave. Isn't that a little strange? And the Dara heaven isn't that valuable to the venerable of Dara, but the Tao Master kept Tao friend Fan. Isn't this suspicious? King Poya is also a Dara, so the backup plan that he and the great Azura kings left behind, and the backup plan that he hid in the Dara divine treasure to temporarily allow him to come from the upper reaches of the River of Time, didn't work at all and was easily controlled by the Tao Master. Is it really that simple? Therefore, I thought of the battle in the heart of King Poya's Dara divine treasure. The corpse god old man corpse god's behavior was a little strange. He seemed to be using the dead blood of King Poya to refine something. The corpse god old man corpse god's behavior has always been strange in the eyes of the Blood Sea Calamity. In terms of playing with corpses, the corpse god old man corpse god is in the top 3 I've seen. In terms of audacity, he even dared to imitate relics, steal the tombs of our Devil Path seniors, burn them into fake relics, and sell them to the Buddhists. How can the corpse god old man corpse god not cause any trouble in the Blood Sea Calamity's unique environment? I don't believe it. If it were me, I would definitely cause trouble. This isn't the devil path, unless he has already planted a trap, or even faked his death to cultivate the 9 deaths reincarnation deceiving heaven technique in order to clear himself of suspicion. If everything he did was to help you control King Poya's corpse, then everything makes sense. Ha ha. That's right. The corpse god Tao Master looked back at Yuan Yu, who was neither servile nor overbearing, and sighed. I've underestimated you. When we met in the past, I only paid attention to that fan kid, but I neglected you. You know a lot of things. That's right, old man corpse god is one of my people. The secret of hiding is that the less movements, the better. Therefore, during the long period of the Aeon Cataclysm, I've tried my best to avoid doing anything by myself. Therefore, I asked Corpse God to help me, and in return, I'll help him. Is that really the case? Yuan Yu paused for a moment and then asked again, how should I address the Tao Master, Luo Qian? Or the Corpse God? There was a loud rumble like a clap of thunder that resounded through the ruins of End. Someone's mind was unstable, and was reflected in the void. Fan Wu Jie's mouth was agape, and he had a startled look on his face. He did not come back to his senses for a long time. After a long time, he blinked his eyes, his heart indescribably shaken. Dara's heart was too dirty. How did you know that? Old Man Corpse God, or the Demon Corpse Tao Master, finally revealed an interested expression. He smiled and said, sometimes I really want to kill you and see if you're someone I know. Maybe you're like me, a heavenly venerable Dara. Of course, I'm not Dara. Yuan Yu was neither servile nor overbearing, because I can't cultivate the 3 lives reincarnation grand technique from the 9 questions of hell. The Demon Corpse Tao Master was truly surprised this time, and he asked in astonishment, you know about the 3 lives reincarnation grand technique? The 3 lives reincarnation grand technique and the 9 deaths reincarnation deceiving heaven technique are both from the 9 questions of hell. Which is the true self? The grand technique of this question. By shedding and transforming one's self, this technique turns one person into 3 people. If the 9 deaths reincarnation deceiving the heavens technique is asking about the past and present lives of the reincarnation cycle, and it's a question of whether the me that is constantly changing and changing is still me, then the 3 lives reincarnation technique is about thinking horizontally and reconstructing the 3 selves with one's constituent elements, and the question of which one is the true self. The 3 lives reincarnation grand technique. Past life, present life, and future life. The self is divided into 3: body, fate, and soul. The previous life remains in the body, disintegrates, and leaves behind the corpse to come back to life. Through a strange transformation, the soul, true spirit, and memories will be reborn, and you will live another life. The present life remains in the fate, and all the karmic relationships of the present life will converge after death. From the memories of everyone who knows you, you will come back to life, and you will become a godlike existence. In the future, you will leave behind your soul, and the soul will reincarnate into a ghost. Finally, through the 3 lives reincarnation, you will ask yourself which one is the true me, and even ask the reincarnation, which one is me. Cultivating such a heaven-defying technique, you will either die from the internal battle of the 3 lives devil physique, or you will die from the pursuit of the underworld, or you will not be able to solve this question, and you will not be able to recognize that all 3 of you are me, and that there is no difference between them. In the end, as time passes, the 3 of you will split into 3 different individuals. I remember that old man corpse god was an old spiritual corpse that turned into a monster many years ago. In the end, he joined the Chasing Corpse sect, and he cultivated to become an overlord of the Devil Tao, the lord of the Devil Monarchs. And I have left behind some of your belongings. Yuan Yu said as he took out the green hair that he carefully kept, your essence is a strange ghost. The reason why no one can tell that the Tao Master is the Lord of Dara is that the Tao Master has refined his body into a strange existence. If I am not wrong, The Tao Master's body is actually a strange ghost's painted skin. Old Man Corpse God is the previous life, and the Tao Master is the future life. The one left in the corpse demon Tao to manage the situation is actually the Tao Master's present life, a strange god born from the faith and memories of everyone, or should I say, a demon. The corpse demon Tao Master, or the Old Man Corpse God, clasped his hands behind his back facing Yuan Yu. The corners of his mouth curled up, but his expression was indifferent. You know too much. Daoist Sandu, but I still have to give face to the Yin-Yang Demon Master. Actually, I don't have to give face to him, do you know? I am considering whether or not to kill you. After all, I hate people who think they are smart. Yuan Yu did not say it out loud, and the corpse demon Tao Master did not think that the one thing he knew was that the 3 lives reincarnation grand technique was the same as the 9 deaths reincarnation heaven deceiving technique, which was another type of grand technique to prove Dara. Or rather, these grand techniques were just for show, and the true essence was actually the 9 questions of Hades that River Styx and Hoodoo had talked about. Through these 2 grand techniques, one could understand River Styx's previous life and reincarnation, which was the true self. The understanding of this question would allow one to change one's state according to River Styx's thoughts, and prove Dara in another way. However, due to the restrictions of Lady Hoodoo and the laws of reincarnation, these methods could only be used once in each reincarnation cycle. The next time it was used, it would definitely lead to the backlash of reincarnation. Therefore, if one failed to master these grand techniques, one would die a terrible death. If one succeeded, they would become the taboo of the Lord of Dara. Since the corpse demon Tao Master had mastered the 3 lives reincarnation grand technique, he naturally occupied this path and cultivated Dara. This was also why Yuan Yu was certain that Tao Master Corpse Demon was the Old Man Corpse God. If the Old Man Corpse God had cultivated the 9-death samsara heaven-deceiving technique, it was impossible for him not to know that Tao Master Corpse Demon had taken over this path. Unless he wanted to kill Tao Master Corpse Demon and take over the position himself, he would not cultivate such a forbidden mystique with no future. Therefore, it could only be the Corpse God Old Man, who was the Corpse God Old Man, who cultivated the same forbidden technique to further understand the thoughts of the demon ancestor in the 9 hell deceiving technique. The 9 hell deceiving technique is one of the 9 inherent flaws of reincarnation, which is why it is envied by the heavens. Cultivating it is an endless torment, much more difficult than cultivating Dara normally. The corpse demon Tao Master sighed. Then why would anyone attempt to cultivate such a forbidden technique? Or is it true that the underworld, the netherworld, and even the laws of reincarnation reject the 9 hell deceiving technique just because it goes against the will of Hoodoo and the laws of reincarnation? Fan Wu Jie covered his ears and sealed his senses, shaking his head vigorously. I won't listen, I won't listen. Yuan Yu sighed. The Tao Master is testing me to see if I am Dara too. If I am not Dara, I would never dare to listen, because if I am not Dara, I will die for sure. So you want to seal your senses? The corpse demon Tao Master smiled. Will the Tao Master allow me to seal my senses? Yuan Yu asked. The corpse demon Tao Master only smiled and did not answer. The answer was obvious. It's even more troublesome if a Grand Luo were to hear of this secret. Grand Luo are only afraid of karma, and this secret has great karma with the Lady of Earth and reincarnation. Tao Lord is already embroiled in it, which is why he naturally wouldn't be afraid. However, if I'm really a Grand Luo, knowing this secret would inevitably embroil me. Bodhisattva fears karma. Yuan Yu sighed. So whether I agree or not, the Tao Master will let me know this secret. If I am not Dara, I will die for sure once I leave the bottomless ruins, but if I am, then the Tao Master has made a move in advance to involve me in this karma dispute. Perhaps it will be of some use. This secret is related to the underworld. The corpse demon Tao Master said, Do you know who destroyed the underworld after the primordial world was broken? Yuan Yu paused, the light and lightning flashed in the bottomless ruins from time to time, casting shadows on his face. This secret is scarier than I thought? Yenluo of the 10 halls is dead. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's corporeal body is missing, only returning to the spiritual mountain after dozens of periods. Qinghua Empress's whereabouts are unknown. I'm scared. Tao Master, please let me live. Yuan Yu knelt decisively. I thought you were brave. The corpse demon Tao Master laughed. I thought I was brave too. A bitter smile appeared on Yuan Yu's face. But I didn't expect this to be so big, even the people behind me can't handle it. So I knelt before you. Please don't say any more. It's too late. The corpse demon Tao Master laughed savagely. It was Lady Hutu and Ancestor River Styx who destroyed the underworld. The 10 Yenluo were killed by Xingtian. Qinghua Empress was sealed by Lady Hutu, and even the Emperor of Heaven dared not interfere because Goddess Nuwa was a guest at the Jasper Lake. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was invited to the Blood Sea by Ancestor River Styx to explain the Buddhist scriptures to the demonic cultivators. Our 5 deputy sect masters surrounded him to entertain him, while demon Ancestor River Styx personally went to discuss the scriptures with the revered one. The Emperor of Heaven invited Goddess Nuwa and Ancestor Fushi to the Jasper Lake, as well as the 3 pristine Taoists. Why did Lady Hutu, Goddess Nuwa, Emperor Shi, and Ancestor River Styx join forces to destroy the underworld? Was it because one of the 9 questions of the Netherworld asks about the original meaning of reincarnation and the will of the heavens? It's about the law of reincarnation, the heavenly Tao's reincarnation, or the human heart's philosophy. Whether good and evil should be repaid, and whether reincarnation should be measured according to the man-made law. Is the law of reincarnation the heavenly Tao or the law of morality? The Buddhists have a clear concept of reincarnation. Both the afterlife and the present are related to the Buddhist philosophy. Similarly, the mystic door has its own philosophy on reincarnation. Ancestor River Styx's question is about the fundamental philosophy of reincarnation and the foundation of the underworld. If karma is set up to punish the soul and interfere with reincarnation according to the good and evil one has done in one's lifetime, then should the law of reincarnation change as time shifts and morality changes? If karma really continues in the previous life, and the actions of the previous life determine the reincarnation of the current life, then will the karma continue? If so, then, if the father in the previous life becomes the son in this life, and they were husband and wife in the previous life, but marry someone else in this life, wouldn't the karma be endless? Yuan Yu sighed helplessly. Therefore, when Ancestor River Styx asked Lady Hutu, she couldn't answer. No, Lady Hutu could answer. She just couldn't speak. Tao Master Corpse Demon said plainly, Lady Hutu is the Earth God, Mother Earth. In her eyes, reincarnation is like the 4 seasons, and all living things wither and prosper. Dead plants sink into the ground and become nutrient. In the spring of the next year, new plants absorb the nutrients and grow. What does the newly grown plants have to do with the nutrients they absorb? All living things on the earth feed on each other, so how can there be good and evil? Therefore, Lady Huda's concept of reincarnation is to use dead souls to nourish new lives through reincarnation. Every life is a new life, and not the return of a stale shadow. Her original intention was not to have a true spirit, to have karma or human wishes. Reincarnation is the law of the heavenly Tao, and every reincarnation is equivalent to the destruction of the soul. But Buddhism and the mystic door don't allow it. This goes against the cultivation of Buddhism, and it also conflicts with the cultivation philosophy of the mystic door. Therefore, both the mystic door and Buddhism have their own concept of reincarnation. Ancestor River Styx's Hades 9 questions asks about the inherent flaws of reincarnation, and at the same time, it asks about Lady Hutu's path. Although Lady Hutu is slightly angry, she also understands Ancestor River Styx's attitude. In terms of using the law of the heavenly Tao for reincarnation, both sides are in agreement. Therefore, they decided to join forces to destroy the underworld. Reincarnation doesn't need to be controlled by people, and it doesn't need to carry out the philosophy of certain sects. This is the mystery of the destruction of the underworld when the primordial world shattered. All the important figures in charge of reincarnation, and the celestial court that manages reincarnation, must be destroyed. Yuan Yu let out a deep sigh. This was the reason why he didn't want to know these secrets. The Hades 9 questions is the loophole of reincarnation, and also the position of the concept of reincarnation. Ancestor River Styx also integrated the method of seizing the authority of reincarnation into the Hades 9 questions. Yuan Yu's tone was cold. Therefore, if someone can cultivate the Hades 9 questions and prove their Tao 9 times, then they can seize a portion of the authority of reincarnation. Become a great mediocre. At least a great mediocre. Tao Master Corpse Demon smiled. This is the secret of the Hades 9 questions. Anyone who knows about this backdoor will definitely be involved in the battle of reincarnation. The original meaning of reincarnation in the Hades 9 questions, and the will of the heavenly Tao and the human heart? The method of proving one's Tao is a great mediocre ability to establish the underworld. As long as one uses one's own philosophy to complete the great mediocre ability of the underworld, use one's own Tao to establish the underworld after its destruction, and practice one's own philosophy of reincarnation, one can prove Dara Tao and complete this question. Once all 9 questions are cultivated, one will have the chance to control the law of reincarnation and seize the authority of reincarnation. Why do you think Lady Hoodoo wants to kill those who cultivate the Hades 9 questions? Tao Master Corpse Demon joked. Because those who cultivate the Hades 9 questions are asking Lady Hoodoo for her hand in marriage and seizing power. No wonder Ancestor River Styx himself doesn't cultivate the Hades 9 questions. Yuan Yu shuddered. He regretted not turning and running before Tao Master Corpse Demon revealed the secret. Even if he was a little embarrassed, even if he was exposed, it was still better than this awkward situation. After Fan Wujie unlocked his 6 senses, he saw Yuan Yu's expression as ugly as if he had eaten shit. He couldn't imagine what kind of terrifying secret could make this slippery old Taoist show such an expression. I'm screwed. Little Fan. Yuan Yu was dumbfounded. I've really screwed up this time. Little Fan, are you interested to know what we were talking about? Yuan Yu turned around and asked Fan Wujie. Fan Wujie shook his head like an electric fan, the wind stirring up even blew the old Taoist's sideburns. Now that things have come to this. Yuan Yu collected his emotions and said to Fan Wujie, there's something I must tell you. Actually, I'm a spy of the righteous path. Chapter 1278. Fan Wujie was slightly startled, then a smile appeared on his face. Old Taoist, why are you testing me? Ever since I followed the demonic path, I have already reached the end of the road. I am a member of the demonic path in life and a ghost of the demonic path in death. Even if I become a zombie, I will still join the demonic path and become a demon corpse ancient zombie red-haired hoe. He patted his chest and said, from now on, I am the most loyal child of the old demon ancestor. For the demonic path, even if I have to risk my life, I will not regret it. Yuan Yu heard this and felt a little guilty. He continued to transmit his voice, little friend Fan. Didn't I tell you that my Taoist name is Xingyangzi? I really didn't lie to you. I am the junior brother of the Righteous Path's Supreme Elder, Spiritual Master Ziyang Xingyangzi. Back then, in order to spy on the demonic path, Senior Brother Ziyang, who was still the sect master of the One Chi sect, kicked me out of the sect. I snuck into the Beauty Lady sect as a rogue cultivator. After years of hard work and humiliation, I finally became the sect master. Fan Wujie raised his head. His face was pale, his expression stiff and lifeless. He looked at Yuan Yu and suddenly said, "Tao Master, I have something to report." Yuan Yu's eyes twitched as he pulled on Fan Wujie's sleeve with all his might. A pleading expression appeared on his face. Demon Corpse Tao Master looked back at the two of them and said to Fan Wujie, "What do you want?" The corners of Fan Wujie's mouth curled up into a cold smile as he glanced at Yuan Yu. Yuan Yu revealed a pitiful and sincere expression as he looked at him. Fan Wujie was still smiling coldly as he said, "Tao Master is now the leader of our Devil Tao. As a member of the Devil Tao, Wujie has to inform Tao Master about one thing. That day when we were thrown into the Blood Sea tribulation by that Shemoli king, it was done intentionally by that Azura king. He used the lifeless cult of our Devil Tao to refine the replicas of the 4 immortal execution sword. He colluded with the witchcraft Tao and is probably still hiding in the dark to harm the Tao Master. He calculated it well." Demon Corpse Tao Master sneered, "I know about this. Do you have anything else?" Fan Wujie looked at Yuan Yu, who was pretending to be pitiful, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a mocking smile. He shook his head and said, "No more." "Then let's get ready. I've already calculated the timing of the returning ruins based on Piyaji's corpse, and we'll soon be able to determine the best time to open the seal." The Corpse Demon Path Lord said in a low voice, "At that time, all these monsters will appear on their own and make their final struggle. Unfortunately, this is a struggle that is destined to fail." Fan Wujie retreated to Yuan Yu's side, lowered his voice and said, "Now, speak clearly." "Actually, there's nothing much to say." Yuan Yu looked like he was at a loss for words, but when he saw the veins at the corner of Fan Wujie's eyes bulging, he hurriedly said, "The relationship between the righteous and demonic sects is very complicated. Just like how you, third ancestor, are the dirty work of the Fan family, and the blood map demon cult is actually the Fan family's black glove. When the Tao prevails and the demons vanish, they transform into one another, and the demonic Tao has a chance to rise again. Although the righteous sects suppress the demonic Tao, they also know that it's difficult to eliminate them, and with the support of the demon ancestor of the river Styx, there will always be a chance for them to rise again. Since it's impossible to eliminate them, there's no harm in joining them and mixing sand in them. Therefore, under the leadership of my senior brother, the leader of the righteous sects at that time, the Ichi sect's sect master, spiritual master Ziyang, the righteous sects came up with a plan called Peaceful Evolution, Operation Redbud Flower. The intention was to select talents from within the righteous sects to infiltrate the demonic Tao. They would secretly control the demonic Tao, and when the time is right, they would be won over. Due to the uniqueness of the yin-yang demonic Tao's heavenly maiden Tao of charm, I was sent to the beauty sect as a spy. I was prepared to bring the beauty sect back to the righteous sections. At first, I thought that it would only be a long time of 3,000 years. Who would have thought that 3,000 years would pass by another 3,000 years? In the end, I became a Tao monarch and became the male sect master of the beauty sect. Under the discriminating gazes of the masses of male cultivators, I became the overlord of all the heavens. Only then did my senior brother tell me that I had infiltrated the highest echelons of the demonic Tao. The information I sent back was of great value to the righteous sects in understanding the internal affairs of the demonic Tao. In addition, even if the beauty sect was in the demonic Tao, they were just a bunch of pitiful women who dealt in the flesh business. Their cultivation path was unique. Even if they were to be brought back to the righteous sects, it would be difficult to change their cultivation foundation. Furthermore, their reputation in the righteous sects would also be inappropriate. It would be better to let the beauty sect continue serving the masses of righteous male cultivators in the demonic Tao. Therefore, my mission changed from a peaceful one to a spy. A faint trace of tears appeared at the corner of old Taoist Yuan Yu's eyes. Fan Wujie clenched his teeth and said, "This is the reason why you tricked me?" Fan Wujie recalled the scene when Yuan Yu had laid his cards on the table with him. At that time, Yuan Yu's calm tone was mixed with unwillingness, the hope that he had painstakingly pursued, and the sadness that he had failed to obtain. At this moment, Yuan Yu was not a person. He was the representative of the devil monarch in the demonic Tao. He had the subtle feeling of searching in the darkness for a trace of a miracle. He had vividly acted out a person who had once been high-spirited, but in the grinding of time, his spirit had gradually calmed down. He had also once had dreams and hopes, but in the confused struggle, he had become mediocre and worldly. He was a wily old devil who had been soaked in time. In front of the final hope, boundless ambition and desire. He had played out the final madness and selfishness of an old devil perfectly. Fan Wujie had also believed in him. Under Dara all are ants. Without Dara all are ants. Fan Wujie clenched his teeth and said, "Your acting is really good, really good. If I believe in you again, I will be the biggest pig in the world." Do you really think that this kind of feeling can really be acted out? Yuan Yu sighed in disappointment. His expression was complicated and indescribable. There seemed to be a glimmer in his eyes, and his sigh contained infinite emotions. Without Dara, all are ants. This is not an act. These are words from the bottom of my heart. Do you really believe that I was abandoned by the righteous Tao because I tarnished the reputation of the righteous Tao? So what if you are a spy? So what if you have a heart for the righteous Tao? So what if you are the junior brother of Reverend Ziyang? So what if you come from the famous One Chi sect of the righteous Tao? After stepping on this path, I am no longer a member of the righteous Tao. I am a gray mixed in between black and white, a blurry shadow between good and evil. Little Fan, you can't possibly think that just because I am a spy of the righteous Tao, I will wholeheartedly think for the righteous Tao, right? Think about it, will the righteous Tao admit that I am their spy? At most, I will be a heretical cultivator who abandoned the dark for the light. I have sacrificed all my youth for the righteous Tao, sacrificed everything I once had, in exchange for this, in exchange for you. Would you be willing? Yuan Yu lowered his head and rubbed his wrinkled, weather-beaten face. He sighed and said, "Spiritual Master Ziyang has long been Dara. I am a chess piece, prepared for him to compete for the position of the Supreme Elder of One Chi sect. When the time comes, he will welcome the line of fairies back to the righteous Tao, which will be a great political achievement during his time as the sect leader. It will have a decisive effect. But later on, he actually proved his Tao as Dara, so there is no need for these superfluous things. And when I was in the beauty sect, I knew too much. The beauty sect opened its doors to do business, and often, all the rising stars of the righteous Tao, seniors and elders would come to visit. In the past, the beauty sect was a devil Tao sect, so no matter what they said, they did not have the right to speak for the righteous Tao. But I am different, I am a spy of the righteous Tao, and my words can be accepted by the righteous Tao. So, Senior Marshal Brother used me to exchange for a wave of political resources, and he promised to make me shut up. Those righteous Tao big shots who went out to have fun behind the backs of their powerful Tao companions would provide him with a portion of the resources, and so I was betrayed. Back then, when we were carrying out the peaceful evolution, the Redbud Flower Plan, the senior and junior Marshal brothers who knew my identity successively failed to transcend their tribulations, or met with inexplicable disasters. A few of my close senior and junior Marshal brothers had all reincarnated one after another. Now, the only one who knows my identity is Senior Marshal Brother Ziyang. Without his proof, I am the old devil of the Devil Tao, the old turtle of the beauty sect. At this time, am I still the righteous Tao? Who would believe me? Yuan Yu asked Fan Wujie. Fan Wujie could not answer. Yuan Yu laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. Do you know? Senior Marshal Brother Ziyang even threatened Nan Wangkung, and he arranged for me to secretly receive this demon race Dara to have fun. This is why I know so much about the Nantua ancient ants and Nan Wang Kung. After completing this task, Yuan Yu said in a low voice, Senior Martial Brother promised me that he would let go of me, and from then on, I will be the beauty sect master, Taoist 3 poisons, the #1 old turtle in the universe. Compared to I Chi sect, that place is more like my home. But I am not satisfied. Yuan Yu said, why should I? I want to become Dara, I want to break free from this ridiculous shackle of righteousness and evil, so what I said before might not be true, but I want to prove that Dara is not fake. Yuan Yu's tone was sincere, logical, and flawless. He was a cultivator who was willing to do anything for the sake of becoming a perfected immortal. His image of a Tao seeker who was willing to give up immortality for the sake of seeking the Tao had been established. Fan Wujia let out a long sigh. I will believe you one more time. Yuan Yu's expression was calm, and he said indifferently, this time, it is not for the righteous Tao, nor is it for the devil Tao. Instead, it is to fight for a chance for oneself. If it succeeds, one will be free and unfettered, and if it fails, one will be smashed to pieces, beyond redemption, and infamy will spread far and wide. If it goes smoothly, one will become a human, and if it goes against, one will become an immortal, and one will be free in the middle. There is no regret in achieving the Tao, and one will fight with everything one has. I told you that I am a spy of the righteous Tao, not for you to join the righteous Tao. It is for our next plan. We want to use spiritual master Ziyang to lead the forces of the righteous Tao to break out of this situation. Now that we are being held hostage by the corpse demon Tao master, we have no chance to prove our Tao in Dara, unless we muddy the waters, so we must escape from the corpse demon Tao master's control. I have left clues for Senior Martial Brother Ziyang, and I have a bronze mirror that can contact Ziyang. They should be in Dara now, so follow me, and I will pass on the information about the corpse demon Tao master to create an opportunity for them. However, Senior Brother Ziyang is the only Grand Luo on the righteous side. Moreover, if only the righteous side and the Daolord corpse Daolord are involved, we won't have much room to maneuver. That's why I want to contact Shi Devil Li. How do we proceed with the plan? Fan Wujia asked. The key to the plan is Poya Mokuo. He is the only one who knows the complete plan of Ro, and he is the only living map other than the corpse demon Tao master who knows the situation inside the seal, so he is indispensable. As for the other things, Shemali and Ajati both have the projection of the first post-celestial killing object that can activate the 4 immortal execution swords. Fajing has the Nantua ancient ant, and you are the only compass that can find Dara heaven. As long as we can get Poya Mokuo, we will have all the conditions on our side, and we will not be inferior to the corpse demon Tao master. Moreover, if we lure in spiritual master Ziyang, King Shemali, and 2 Dara, and the Buddhist Tao might also have a Dara hiding in the dark, we have 3 Dara, each with their own background and different interests. With their complicated relationship, we need to fight for the power of our Tao Lord. If we lure in spiritual master Ziyang, the righteous Tao will not trust us, and we will definitely be marginalized. The Buddhist Tao also has a group of Buddhas, but Shemali and the corpse demon Tao master are alone, so they will definitely fight for the demon Tao's support. At that time, no matter which side we go to, we will have the opportunity to use Dara Heaven to prove our Tao. We can also use the competitive relationship between Dara Heaven to reap great benefits. In the seal, Dara does not dare to move, because they are afraid of the sealed Ro demon ancestor. When that time comes, they will assume the identity of chess players, and use and nurture us to achieve their goals. And with our complicated identity, we have internal relationships with the mystic door, the Buddhist Tao, and the demon Tao. You are also the key to opening Dara Heaven, so we can benefit from both sides at this time. We will not lose our autonomy like we are now. Yuan Yu's thoughts were very clear, and the direction he pointed out was not wrong. Fan Wujie had no reason not to take the risk. Now that he had a Dara behind him, and he was about to join forces with another, or even two Dara, he had a huge advantage, and he could definitely take the risk. Not long after, Fan Wujie heard a dignified and deep voice, yet it was also elegant and refined, asking him, "Are you little friend Fan? I am spiritual master Ziyang. I heard that little friend Fan has an agreement with Xingyang Zi, and is willing to open Dara heaven for the righteous Tao. For this, you are willing to temporarily pretend to be courteous with those demons. Little friend Fan's intention to protect the righteous Tao, we are already aware of it, and we will not let little friend Fan's reputation be tarnished in the future. And little friend Fan, do you know that the elder ancestor of the Fan clan also came to find me, and he also has the intention to slay the demons and protect the righteous Tao?" Fan Wujie heard the voice of the elder ancestor of the Fan clan, Wujie. "It is good that you are willing to help the righteous Tao, and have the intention to slay the demons, but you must listen to spiritual master Ziyang's teachings, and do your best for the righteous Tao. You, the third elder, are cruel and unscrupulous, and secretly cultivated the demonic arts, which is already a crime that cannot be punished, and you have brought shame to the Fan clan. The next time you see him, do not be merciful. The righteous Tao and the evil Tao cannot coexist, and we must clean up the Fan clan." His words were soft and hard, and there was a hidden threat in them. But when Fan Wujie heard it, he was still grateful to Yuan Yu, because Yuan Yu had obviously manipulated the situation and reversed the sequence of his defection to the evil Tao, to say that he knew Xingyang Zi's identity, and for the righteous Tao, he pretended to be courteous with the evil Tao. This time, the sequence was reversed, and his dark history was erased. Of course, this also meant that he was tied to the ship of the righteous Tao, or at least, it was spiritual master Ziyang's ship. If he wanted to prove his innocence, he would first have to prove that Xingyang Zi was a spy of the righteous Tao, and to prove that Xingyang Zi was a spy of the righteous Tao, only spiritual master Ziyang would speak up. The political maneuvering behind it had a profound meaning. Spiritual master Ziyang had the two of them in his hands, and he had a way to control them. If he wanted to break out of this situation, he could only do as Xingyang Zi said, prove the Tao in Dara heaven, and use his strength to break out of the situation, and then he would be free and unfettered. When Fan Wujie thought of this, he could not help but look up to the sky and sigh. "Without Dara we are all ants," Yuan Yu suddenly said. "Tao Master, Shui Tu King and the others are not far away, and I have a good relationship with Ajati. This person can trigger a trace of the projection of the Yuan-Tu sword, and he once forged a replica of the 4 immortal slaying swords for Shemoli. Why don't I recruit this person for Tao Master? Even if he can't work for us, I can't let Shemoli and the others use him, and ruin your plans." The Tao Master of Corpse Demon looked at him with a faint smile. "Go. If you can't bring him back, you don't have to come back." Yuan Yu immediately got up and chased after the demonic cultivators, and soon, Ajati was indeed waiting for him. The Tao Master of Corpse Demon scanned with his divine will, and he was a little surprised, not knowing what the two of them were planning. Ajati triggered a trace of Yuan-Tu sword chi to isolate the two's auras, so the Tao Master of Corpse Demon couldn't hear what the two were discussing, but soon Yuan Yu and Ajati rushed over. Just as he walked to the Tao Master of Corpse Demon, Fan Wujie felt something was wrong. Yuan Yu's brows were less slippery and wretched, and instead had a trace of a Taoist elegance and otherworldliness. His temperament was different. This guy isn't Yuan Yu. Fan Wujie immediately came back to his senses, and their plan flashed through his mind like lightning. He immediately took a step forward, and turned to stand behind Yuan Yu and Ajati. Then, he saw Yuan Yu's hand sprinkle a purple cloud. Purple chi, it was the most noble, and it symbolized the leader of all chi, the supreme Yang Chi. Yuan Yu's eyes were empty, as if there was no one to rely on, and there was no emotion in them. It was like a chi that traversed the universe, and from beginning to end, its essence remained the same. Dara. The Tao Master of Corpse Demon's tone finally changed. He raised his hand to block Yuan Yu's attack, but at this time, Ajati, who was beside Yuan Yu, had already pulled out his sword and cut his own throat, and blood splattered everywhere. Grand Ritual of the Witch God. The purplish-red blood splattered everywhere, and it hung upside down like a banner, wrapping around King Poya's corpse. The Tao Master of Corpse Demon's expression changed, and he finally knew who it was. The person who had cut his own throat was Shemali, and the old monster of the witch cult had transformed into a strange form and was hiding in Shemali's body. The Tao Master of Corpse Demon's attainments in refining corpses were unparalleled, and he had refined King Poya into a walking corpse. Even Shemali couldn't suppress it, and with a single thought, he could control King Poya to unleash an ultimate Tao solution and force Shemali and the unknown Dara, who was disguised as Yuan Yu, to retreat. But Shemali was really something, and he was actually willing to use his own life essence to sacrifice King Poya. The two of them were of the same race, and there was even an old monster of the witch cult presiding over the ritual. Even the dead could be sacrificed back to life. When Qiyu and the Xianyuan Emperor fought, his neck blood splattered everywhere after he died, and he sacrificed it to the heavens and earth, and turned it into a comet, Chio's banner. It cut off the connection between the primitive heavenly realm and the primitive continent, so the goddess of that time couldn't return to the heavenly realm. Qiyu then cursed her before he died, and her divine body was tainted, turning her into a drought demon. The power of the witch cult's sacrificial ritual was evident. The sacrificial ritual was the ancestor of all curses, loathing, senses, transformations, divine abilities, and magical arts. With the blood essence of Dara, the Azura king, as the sacrifice, and an old monster of the witch cult presiding over the ritual, the witch god's great ritual transformed the old monster of the witch cult into a strange form, and revived in King Poya's body. From this corpse, a god was sacrificed. The Tao Master of Corpse Demon immediately lost control of King Poya's corpse, and he and Yuan Yu fought fiercely. That Dara casually grabbed with his hand, and he could gather an endless amount of primordial chi, which violently split and turned into rolling thunder. They were all purple heaven thunderbolts, and they exploded all over the Tao Master of Corpse Demon's body. Fan Wujie seized the opportunity to retreat, and not far away, he encountered the real Yuan Yu. Yuan Yu and Ajati stood side by side, watching the three Daras fight from afar. "What a magnificent sight!" Yuan Yu exclaimed, and he turned and smiled. "Little Fan, come up and greet Tao Friend Lifeless." I already knew that Tao Friend Lifeless was still colluding with Shemoli, so I used a little trick to contact Shemoli, and I acted as the middleman, allowing Tao Master of Corpse Demon to cooperate with Shemoli. That's why the Tao Master of Corpse Demon was caught off guard. Fan Wujie observed from the side, and he could feel that the Tao Master of Corpse Demon was indeed having a hard time against two Dara of the same level, and he had lost the initiative. He frowned and said, "If this goes on, I'm afraid the Tao Master of Corpse Demon won't last long, and he will flee in defeat." Yuan Yu, however, shook his head and said, keep watching, it won't be long before Tao Master of Corpse Demon and Shemoli turn against each other. When that happens, the three of them will fight to a draw." Before Yuan Yu finished speaking, Tao Master of Corpse Demon suddenly grabbed Poya Matzo from Poya King's hand. Shemoli was instantly enraged, and he turned around to fight Tao Master of Corpse Demon against Tao Master of Corpse Demon. As expected, the three of them started fighting, because Shemoli suddenly attacked the Tao Master of Corpse Demon. Yuan Yu, however, understood. Currently, Tao Master of Corpse Demon and Shemoli have a better basis to cooperate, because even if Poya Matzo is taken away, the Tao Master of Corpse Demon has all the conditions to enter the Sealed Land, so he won't cooperate with Shemoli. On the contrary, Tao Master of Corpse Demon and Shemo Li each have a part of the conditions to enter the sealed land, and both of them have the need to cooperate, but they are not willing to do so. I guess they will have to fight for a while to determine the strength and attitude of the three parties. Chapter 1279. The battle between Tao Master Corpse and perfected Ziyang caused chaos and the great Tao to tremble. The surrounding void was on the verge of collapsing, and countless destructive tribulation powers started burning and boiling. Monstrous purple energy roiled, suppressing all of the embryonic forms of the tribulation of destruction. Even universe light seemed to freeze in the void. Time and space seemed to condense into amber, freezing all the yuan qi, changes, and movements inside. In the void deep in the sinkhole, there were only three powerful figures intertwining. They attacked, tearing apart the stagnant time and space, causing countless spatial cracks. Purple Heaven Thunder. Tao Master Corpse Demon suffered a loss after being grabbed by Spiritual Master Ziyang's 5 fingers and grabbed countless lightning bolts from the void. His eyes were filled with fear, clearly wary of the Purple Heaven Thunder. The Thunder technique was the core of Xuanmen's esoteric teachings. Since ancient times, the evil Tao, Buddhist sect, and demon sect had used the mystic sect's Dharma spells and supernatural powers. The art of transformation, the art of creation, and even the water technique, fire technique, and divine light technique were passed down among the unorthodox sections. There were many sects, but the Thunder technique was the only one that could not be controlled by the Xuanmen's orthodoxy. Thunder was the pivot of yin and yang, born from the qi of yin and yang. Thunder was yang, and thunder belonged to yin. Not only was it the core path to mastering the pivot of yin and yang, but it was also a foundational art for entering the Tao. It was also a practical divine art with great destructive power. It could be said that it was the combination of theory and application, foundation and practicality. There were many types of thunder arts. In terms of thunder arts, there were divine firmament thunder, jade pivot thunder, cave thunder, immortal capital thunder, North Pole thunder, Tai thunder, purple kingdom thunder, vast jade thunder, Taishao thunder, and Taiji thunder. But at the level of Dara, one could understand a part or two of the mysteries of yin and yang turning into thunder. These thunder arts were of limited use in battles against Dara. Dara was mostly a chaos godfiend, and had enough resistance to the thunder arts of yin and yang and the pivot of Taiji. But there were 5 special kinds of thunder arts that were an exception. In the chaos, yin and yang had yet to be separated, and Taiji did not appear. Wuji and Taiji intertwined with each other. Under such circumstances, the chaos divine thunder, which contained destruction and creation, was powerful enough to kill even chaos godfiends. The nature of chaos divine thunder was extremely fast, and there was no concept of time between Wuji and Taiji. Every bolt of chaos divine thunder was a universe that was created and destroyed in the shortest time possible. There was also the Du Tian thunder that burst forth when Pangu separated heaven and earth, when yin and yang were separated and Taiji was created. As the lords of creation, the 3 clear ones divided the Du Tian divine thunder and merged it with their own great Tao to form the Grand Clear, Jade Clear, and Shang Clear divine thunder. When the universe was destroyed, when all Daos returned to the void, it was created from the destruction, destroying the foundation of the universe, destroying everything. It was formed from tribulation power, returning the Taiji back to its ultimate form. Or perhaps it was better known as the godly lightning of the end, the Jade Dawn lightning. Finally, the matter of the untainted universe kept moving, the yin and yang kept changing, and the primordial qi moved and rubbed against each other. After the world was created, the primordial qi moved like the wind and turned into lightning. Because the sky was the positive pole and the earth was the negative pole, after the friction between the primordial qi of the primordial world produced enough power of thunder, the thunder came from above the 9 heavens, penetrated the 9 earths and went to the yellow springs of the netherworld. It was the supreme lightning technique of the Shunshao sect. the ancestor of Shunshao sect, had once proposed a proposal in the Purple Cloud Palace. Although the proposal was vetoed in the meeting of the Purple Cloud Palace, everyone had to give this great divine power some face. Therefore, to a certain extent, the heaven realm retained part of the structure of the 9 heavens. Moreover, the Shunshao sect specialized in thunder technique. This thunder rose from the highest point of the sky. In the structure of the 9 heavens of Shunshao sect, the highest point of the sky was the purple cloud. The highest meeting hall of the untainted land was the Purple Cloud Palace, so it was named the Purple Cloud Divine Thunder. It was the highest achievement of all the thunder techniques in the primordial world. The Chaos Divine Thunder, Du Tian Divine Thunder, Three Qing Divine Thunder, and Dao 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 God Thunder had surpassed the untainted land to a certain extent. It was either one of the original forces that created the universe, the state of the universe's life and death in the chaos, the 3 Qing Daos as Pangu, the great Tao of Pangu, or the end of the universe's destruction and all Daos returning to dust. The purple heaven divine thunder that spiritual master Zi Yang directed was like a sharp golden ray, piercing the Tao master corpse demon's body and causing its green fur to stand on end. The Tao master corpse demon's green fur stood on end as if it was about to explode. Yuan Yu and the others, who were watching from afar, had a strange smile on their faces. The Shui Tu king had appeared beside Ajati. He stood with his hands behind his back, watching calmly. In the depths of the destructive tribulation power, a corner of a purple gold alms bowl peeked out. The old monks led by Fa Jing were also lying there, watching the show. A fight between 3 Dara. It had been years since the universe last saw a lively Dara. Besides, who wouldn't want to watch the show? Those who didn't want to watch the show were not good cultivators and had no ambition to prove their Tao. These weird, ominous green hairs that contained some kind of nether curse were scorched black by the purple heaven godly thunder, and some of them were even burnt. Yuan Yu's expression changed. He lowered his voice and said, "The purple cloud divine thunder is so powerful. I originally speculated that these green hairs were formed when the destructive tribulation power wore down the connate lifeforms. But after knowing that these green hairs grew on Dara, and according to the information revealed by the Tao Master Corpse Demon, I suspect that these green hairs are actually the backlash of the law of reincarnation. They are formed by the ominous things in the depths of the netherworld. The purple cloud divine thunder can even restrain this level of evil and filth. It is indeed the supreme thunder technique of the prehistoric times." When Fan Wujie heard those words, the look in his eyes changed. He quietly pulled on Yuan Yu's sleeve and said, "Speaking of green hair, I remember that you have plucked some." As he said that, he remembered that he had even wiped off that piece of human skin. He had actually allowed the hair to fall onto the ground and be carefully kept by Yuan Yu. Now that he thought about it, his heart ached. "I thought it was just a useless treasure that grew on top of an invincible treasure, but it turned out to be a supreme treasure that grew on Dara's body." Fan Wujie said to the back of Yuan Yu's head, "Everyone who sees it has a share. This treasure is fated to be with me." "You were wrong at that time. It means that this treasure is not fated with you. Why force it?" Yuan Yu said in a low voice, "We still have a chance." Fan Wujie signaled him to turn around and look at the greedy eyes of Ajati and Shui Tu King, who were drooling over the treasure. He said in a low voice, "No one knew about this treasure before, and the Tao Master of the Demon Corpse sect also hid his identity, so it was easy to get in touch with him. He did not mind if we plucked his green hairs. Now that he has exposed his identity as Dara, it is not good for us to get in touch with him, let alone plucking his hair." Yuan Yu smiled and said, "Think carefully. This is a treasure that grew on the body of Dara after Dara violated the taboo and was devoured by the laws of reincarnation. With the right technique, it can be refined into one of the scariest cursed treasures in the universe. Moreover, this green hairs contain the laws of reincarnation, the taboo of the netherworld, and it is a rare material in the universe. How many people can violate the taboo of the netherworld? Normally, such an existence would turn into a terrifying monster, not to mention in the universe. Where would you find Dara who violated the taboo of the netherworld and survived? There is only one treasure like this that contains the essence of Dara and the curse of the netherworld, and its value is immeasurable. When Fan Wu Jie heard this, he looked at the purple firmament, godly thunder and lightning dancing in the sky, and the evil vanquishing power, and his green hair was burnt to a crisp. Fan Wu Jie's heart ached so much that he could barely breathe. With a weak voice he wailed, "My taboo treasure, my Dara's corpse hair, my green hairs." In the face of the troublesome purple thunder, the Tao Master of Corpse Demon was pierced by the golden rays of lightning, and the purple thunder energy that was as sharp as golden needles smashed through the black mist that wrapped around his body like a hot knife through butter. The incomparably evil black mist, the taboo power that came from the netherworld, was completely destroyed by the golden rays. The Tao Master of Corpse Demon let out a furious roar and simply lifted his wrinkled human skin that was full of green hair and mold, revealing a twisted shadow inside. The shadow seemed to be the fusion of countless souls, overlapping into countless faint shadows, and each shadow had a blurry face. But as the few of them looked at the shadow, the faces of the shadows gradually turned into the faces of the few of them. Among the countless shadows, Yuan Yu saw his own face, and he quickly cut off his six senses, saying, "Don't look at that thing." Fan Wu Jie quickly sealed off his six senses as well, and he listened to Yuan Yu. This body of the Tao Master of Corpse Demon is his future body, a strange existence born from all karma and the memories of all living beings. It is neither a god nor a demon, neither a ghost nor a human, neither a soul nor a shadow, but essentially it is all karma, and its form is similar to the ancient devils and een devils. If your impression of him is too deep, and the karma is too heavy, that face will completely turn into yours, and then your karma will be stolen by him, and you will be devoured and become a part of him. This thing is extremely evil. Fan Wu Jie felt that his impression of the shadow and the Tao Master of Corpse Demon was getting deeper and deeper, as if a faint shadow had entered his memory and was gradually becoming clearer. Fan Wu Jie asked hurriedly, "How do I get rid of the impression of this thing?" This thing can be called the Karma Devil, Wishing Ghost, or Karma Fiend God. In the eyes of this thing, all living beings are unknown karma, and they are just false bodies formed from the accumulation of karma. That is why it can replace our true bodies with karma, and devour us as a part of him. If you want to prevent him from stealing your karma, you have to cut off the karma between you. What is karma? It is our karma, our connection with humans, with all living beings, and with the world. In the purple gold alms bowl, an old monk suddenly lost his face, and became a person with a blank face. Suddenly, a face appeared in the shadow, and it was the face of the old monk. Another old monk in the purple gold alms bowl suddenly looked terrified, and he said to the shadow, "Junior Marshal Brother." Soon, the faceless old monk lost the Buddhist light behind his head, and a circle of Buddhist light appeared on the face of the shadow. Then, divine arts and karma kept being stolen, and the aura of the faceless old monk turned into that of a mortal. He touched his face and said in fear, "Who am I? Who am I? What about my Buddhist name? What about my name?" Soon, even the aura of his bloodline was usurped. His parents had a new child, and his past had a new owner. He became a person with no face, no name, no cultivation base, no divine power, no origin, no past, no parents, and no social relations. He was a completely blank person. Countless faces appeared in the Karma Devil, Wishing Ghost, and Karma Fiend God. They had identities, origins, relationships, and past. "I am all living beings," Tao Master Corpse Demon said in a low voice. "When people die, they leave behind corpses, and corpses are not just flesh and skin. All fate, all karma, all relationships, and all existences are corpses as well. Among the old demons hidden by the demon Tao, there was also a faceless Een devil that soared into the sky in fear. Right now, he was a Een demon, but other than the essence of a Een demon, everything about him had been taken away by a mysterious hand. The purple heaven thunderbolt continued to wreak havoc on the shadow. Countless shadows with faces dissipated under the purple heaven thunderbolt, but the corpse demon path master smiled and said, "What does it have to do with me if you kill them?" Spiritual Master Ziyang's expression was very ugly. According to his calculations, he had killed many people, including the old monk Fa Ming. His Buddhist light divine art was very powerful, but it was not worth mentioning in front of Dara's divine art. The purple gold alms bowl had a faceless man, and Spiritual Master Ziyang had a murderous evil named Fa Ming. All kinds of karma were collected and severed by Spiritual Master Ziyang. However, Ziyang could sense countless fragments of karma descending upon him. While the karma was insignificant to him, it was the karma of millions or even billions of ordinary lifeforms that were insignificant to a Grand Luo. However, it was this insignificance that was as insignificant as a speck of dust that gained weight after being gathered together for so long. Spiritual Master Ziyang had to fear these accumulated karma. Spiritual Master Ziyang had inexplicably gained tens of millions of children. He had tens of millions of children of unknown origins, who were as insignificant as dust, and he had inexplicably gained many parents, as well as many old women whom he had abandoned. With these complicated karma involved, Spiritual Master Ziyang had replaced the identity of countless insignificant living beings in the various world. A certain scholar who had failed for a long time and abandoned his wife and children was replaced by Spiritual Master Ziyang. A certain butcher who drank too much and beat his wife was replaced by Spiritual Master Ziyang. Tao Master Corpse Demon could replace all living beings, and could split into shadows to supplement the traces that had mysteriously disappeared in the network of karma. But Spiritual Master Ziyang did not have this ability. The sudden disappearance of karma became a burden on him. Spiritual Master Ziyang had no choice but to stop. He could not beat someone to death, but he could disgust them to death. This was the nature of Tao Master Corpse Demon. It was too disgusting. Zhenren Ziyang had never paid attention to those mortals who were as insignificant as dust and as ephemeral as ants. But now, his face was splashed with karma, and he inexplicably gained countless identities. He became a famous prostitute in a brothel, a shrewish woman who bought tofu, a white-haired general, and a talented scholar who was not recognized. All these existences had been replaced by him, Spiritual Master Ziyang. Spiritual Master Ziyang, who had a beautiful long beard and a youthful face, was so angry that his beard trembled. He could not help but curse, "Corpse Demon, you're too shameless." Tao Master Corpse Demon could split into thousands of karmic bodies to replace those whose karma had been stolen. He could play the role of a scholar, a famous general, a prostitute, or a butcher. He could shamelessly switch between men and women and assume the social relationships of others. He, Spiritual Master Ziyang, could not do it. He could not bear the identities of others. But if he did not assume these identities, the positions in the network of karma would suddenly become empty. After these people disappeared, the emptiness left behind would affect his social relationship. Some people lost their fathers, a country without a general, and these effects would spread like ripples, changing the fates of countless people. This change would produce a reaction, and the karma of such a reaction would exert pressure on that emptiness. Endless pressure accumulated, and countless karma converged, turning into disturbing mortal dust that descended and tainted Spiritual Master Ziyang's Tao body. They turned into countless worries that bound his Tao heart. They turned into countless karma that enveloped him. Spiritual Master Ziyang felt disgusted. These things annoyed him to no end. He immediately retracted the purple cloud thunder and looked coldly at the shameless Tao Master Corpse Demon. Tao Master Corpse Demon chuckled. "Spiritual Master Ziyang, it's hard to determine a winner between the three of us. If we continue fighting, it will only cause a lot of trouble for all of us. I made a mistake, and you took advantage of me and took Poya Matso. I won't pursue this matter. Spiritual Master Ziyang said to Shimori, let's work together and enter the sealed land. Tao Master Corpse Demon interrupted them. Slow down, Demon Ancestor of Ro is imprisoned in the sealed land. Waking him up won't do us any good. If we fight in the sealed land, we will definitely wake up Demon Ancestor of Ro. I originally thought that entering the sealed land alone would naturally be able to control the situation and not cause too much trouble. But now I'm not the only one who has designs on the sealed land. Our existence is too obvious. Even the slightest movement will greatly affect the sealed land. It's just like how a giant whale can't move in a small bay. Even the slightest movement will cause huge waves and startle the behemoth in the bay. So we must come to an agreement. Spiritual Master Ziyang said, what agreement? Between Dara, let's avoid fighting directly. Let these little pawns scout for us, and indirectly carry out our plan through them. Tao Master Corpse Demon clasped his hands behind his back. The giant whale can't move freely, so we might as well use these ants. Adept Violet Sun glanced at the Tao Lords under his command. Under his leadership, these Tao Lords had safely traversed the sinkhole. Compared to the Buddhists, who had less than half of them left, and the Fiend Lords, who had suffered terrible losses, their situation was unfathomably better. Right now, these Tao Lords were the side with the best combat power, and could fight against the combined forces of the Buddhists and demonic monarch. With such a great advantage, Spiritual Master Ziyang naturally wouldn't refuse. Shimori also brought a group of his subordinates, as well as the old monsters of the witchcraft sect who had colluded with a few demonic monarchs, including Ajati. They were confident that they were strong enough. On the other hand, Tao Master Corpse Demon was alone, without a single subordinate. But as the one who suggested this, Tao Master Corpse Demon didn't mind. He called over the Shui-Tu King Yuan Yu and Brahma Wujia. How about it? Isn't this what you wanted? Are you willing to lend me a hand? Of course, I know that you demonic monarchs won't do anything without benefit. That's why I'm offering you the best conditions. Yuan Yu and Brahma Wujia glanced at each other, not bothering to explain that they weren't from the demonic monarchs. Instead, they boldly stepped forward and said, what conditions are you willing to offer us, Taoist? Tao Master Corpse Demon sent over a jade invitation. Yuan Yu and the others glanced at it, then decisively stood behind Tao Master Corpse Demon. At this moment, the purple gold alms bowl hidden in the calamity of destruction was slowly lifted up by someone. The nameless monk who had been missing for a long time stepped out and stood between them. Holding the Buddhists in the purple gold alms bowl, he said, if that's the case, can I join in as well? Spiritual Master Ziyang sneered, Wuming? If you want to join in, you should first ask yourself if you are qualified. The old monk with the Dharma name Wuming smiled, and opened his palm. On his dark golden palm, 2 grain-sized ants were crawling slowly. He turned to Tao Master Corpse Demon and said, the Nanto ancient ant in your hand was taken by Taoist King Shimali, but I still have 2 of them. Are you willing to work with me, Tao Master? Since it's a collaboration, I would like to join in as well. The tribulation power of destruction was torn apart once more, and a grand luo of the dragon race landed before them. When Yuan Yu saw him, he recalled that he was one of the dragon race's heavenly immortals and Tao monarchs who were pursuing him and Brahma Wujia. You sure hit it well. Yuan Yu stroked his beard and thought to himself, is there anyone else who hasn't shown up yet? In the end, there were only 5 Dara. The nameless old monk led a group of Buddhist disciples and formed a temporary agreement with the demon monarchs recruited by Tao Master Corpse Demon. The other group of demon monarchs chose to follow Shimali, leading a group of Asuras and the righteous Tao monarchs led by Spiritual Master Ziyang, with the addition of Dara from the dragon race. Dara of the dragon race said, I did not bring anyone with me, and I will not participate in any of your plans. I am only here to find the whereabouts of the ancestral dragon. I will lend you the key to open the sealed land. If you agree, we will work together and not interfere with your plans. I will look for my ancestral dragon, and you will do whatever you are supposed to do. If you don't agree, this is the deepest part of the bottomless ruins, and I will use my full power to cause a great calamity. By then, we will all go our separate ways. All right. Spiritual Master Ziyang and Tao Master Corpse Demon looked at each other and agreed. As long as you agree to not interfere in the sealed land, we will work together to open a path for you. I can only agree that I will not interfere in matters that have nothing to do with the ancestral dragon. Dara of the dragon race said coldly. It's a deal. Spiritual Master Ziyang, Shimali, Tao Master Corpse Demon, and the nameless old monk began opening the paths to the sealed land. Chapter 1280. Up ahead is the sealed core of the endless. Adept Violet Yang came to a halt in front of a region of chaotic space. None of them, be they Dowlords or Dara, could see the seal in front of them. An enormous, undetectable space-time plane had appeared in front of them, and the tribulation power around it was like a strange cloud. The strange origin power that contained the tribulation power of destruction burned and boiled, transforming into wind, lightning, water, fire, and even time. It surrounded an enormous fragment of space-time, the remnants of worlds that had been dragged into the endless and suffered the tribulation of destruction. The wondrous deity thunder, eon decay light, annihilation astral wind, nirvanic tribulation fire, and dried-up stagnant water were all extremely concentrated destruction tribulation power. They possessed unfathomably terrifying destructive power, and not even Dara dared to casually touch or provoke them. However, this highly concentrated destruction tribulation power had undergone a strange shift in one of the planes. Some of the fragments of worlds had fallen into this plane, which had been ground away by the tribulation power and transformed into a highly tangible vessel for the tribulation power. Upon entering this plane, they vanished from everyone's field of vision, as though they had been obliterated. Adept Violet Young explained, "This is the entrance to the sealed region where Rose Demon Ancestor is sealed. It has another name, the Void Realm. The Void Realm is undetectable, and no divine sense or sight is able to see what is happening within that plane. All we can see is how those in the outside world enter that plane, then vanish and be obliterated. This is why this plane is also known as the Void Realm. On one hand, it means that upon entering this plane, everything will vanish into nothingness. On the other hand, it means that everything within this plane will be invisible to the outside world." The Dowlord Corpse Demon laughed coldly. "You're just bluffing. The only reason why the sealed region is called the Void Realm, and why this spacetime plane is called the Void Realm, is because it contains a Grand Tao that shouldn't exist in this world or the universe at all. The Grand Tao of Nothingness. The Land of Nothingness is the world ruled by the Great Tao of Nothingness. The Land of Infinity, the Heaven of Grand Overarching, or the Balance of Nothingness. It means that the Great Tao of Nothingness is the hub of the balanced universe, or a world that does not exist, the part of the universe that is nothingness, the land of end. On the day of the end of the universe, the final nirvana calamity, the final enlightenment, and the time when all Daos return to nothingness arrives. Shiwu Heng Jun will devour the destruction devil god after the destruction devil god destroys the foundation of Taiji and turn everything into a part of himself. Compared to the primordial world, the void Hengjuan does not exist at all. That's why countless Dowlords across the universe have searched for countless years, from the depths of the heavens to the depths of the Yellow Springs. Yet, they were unable to find the everlasting and unchanging Dara heaven. Fan Wujie stared at the strange vision that he could not see through, and said in a low voice, "So, Ro, Demon Ancestor, and Dara Tian are both hidden in the void?" The grand Tao of destruction is the bane of Taiji and the foundation of all existence. If Dara had not begun to comprehend the grand Tao of chaos and the power of chaos before the creation of heaven and earth, and inherited the legacy of the 3,000 chaos fiend gods, even Dara would be like an ant before the grand Tao of destruction and its manifestation, the destruction devil god. Dara has elevated his grand Tao to become the foundation of the universe, but the grand Tao of destruction has directly shaken the foundation of the universe. Even Dara could only protect himself before the grand Tao of destruction and the void Hengjuan devil god until the next universe is created. That's why countless innate gods who inherited the legacy of the chaos fiend gods were reincarnated during the tribulation of Ro. That's why Dara is so afraid of the destruction devil god and Ro demon ancestor. The Path Master of Corpse Demon explained, however, it's not like the destruction devil god is invincible. The grand Tao of destruction destroys the foundation of all existence, but after existence is destroyed, another grand Tao is born, and that is nothingness. Therefore, destruction is the bane of existence, and nothingness is the bane of destruction. To seal the destruction devil god, Ro demon ancestor, he could only seal it in nothingness. The wreckage of the heavenly worlds fell into nothingness and was destroyed by Ro, completing Ro's destiny and destiny. However, the power of the wreckage of the heavenly worlds strengthened Ro demon ancestor's power while also strengthening the seal, which is the power of nothingness. This is why the Patriarch of River Styx was never worried that Ro could escape from nothingness. Because the grand Tao of nothingness is the end of the grand Tao of destruction, nothingness is far scarier than Ro. Therefore, it's impossible for the ants of Ro's faction to rescue Ro. Only ants like you, who strive to achieve Dara's greatness, would think that they have a chance of success. Even the 4 immortal slaying swords can't cut through nothingness? Ajati sighed regretfully as he looked at the nothingness vision. The Path Master of Corpse Demon looked back at him and sneered, "Little ant, your thoughts are very dangerous." That's right, even the 4 immortal slaying swords can't cut through nothingness, because to the foundation of the existence of Taiji, the 4 immortal slaying swords are the destroyers, killing everyone and destroying everything. However, to nothingness, the 4 immortal slaying swords are the creators, and they themselves are creating nothingness. Nothingness can't be destroyed. How can you destroy something that doesn't exist? I even suspect that the number 1 acquired killing treasure of the sect isn't formed from the corpse of a chaotic godfiend like a connate spiritual treasure, nor is it born from chaos like a chaotic spiritual treasure. It's very likely to be a spiritual treasure nurtured by nothingness. Yuan Yu watched the Path Master of Corpse Demon's nonsense. Not only was he not shocked, he even wanted to laugh. However, everyone else was stunned by the Path Master of Corpse Demon's words. Looking at the nothingness vision, their hearts trembled slightly, whether the 4 immortal slaying swords could cut through the immortal slaying sword formation. This was a good question. Perhaps even the creator of the immortal slaying sword formation, River Styx, and the wielder of the immortal slaying sword formation, Numinous Treasure, would not be able to answer. In a sense, the Path Master of Corpse Demon's guess was correct, because the immortal slaying sword formation did indeed exist first, and then used it to refine the 4 immortal slaying sword. Based on this sequence, there was nothing wrong with Nothingness Heng-Jun, immortal slaying sword formation, creating the 4 immortal slaying swords. Nothingness Heng-Jun, the many Tao Lords stared intently at this strange, invisible region that separated the visible from the invisible. In terms of vision, senses, and even divine sense, this strange region of spacetime was like a black hole that swallowed everything without giving any feedback at all. Thus, to a certain degree, in the eyes of these Tao Lords, it was like a pitch-black well that was so deep that they couldn't see the bottom. It was hard to see what was within it. This was an absolute darkness. A sense of unease suddenly arose in everyone's hearts. It was a fear of the unknown. The more one knew, the more one feared the unknown. Downlords were the ones in the universe who knew the most when Dara wasn't around. The 5 Dara here were even more terrified. Although they wouldn't be completely obliterated, they would still die in the conventional sense of the word. Falling into this death was a very natural thing for them. The Wakanate inextinguishable spiritual aura guaranteed that they would always have a chance, but they also realized that if they rashly charged in, their vision might go black and they would be mysteriously resurrected. They might even end up like the unlucky Ro and be imprisoned within. The nameless old monk frowned and said, "The land of nothingness is so mysterious. How did the Ro survivors find a way to enter it? Now that the Ro survivors have been captured by Downlord Corpse Demon and Spiritual Master Ziyang, you should know how to enter it, right? I hope that the 2 of you can tell us about it so that we can study it together." The Ro survivors do know some things about the land of nothingness, but they were all revealed to them by the great Azura King who broke into Ro's seal. Downlord Corpse Demon smiled coldly and said, "It's very vague. It seems that there are many things that the great Azura Kings dare not tell their kin." But how did the great Azura Kings break into the land of nothingness? Fan Wujie asked doubtfully. This time, it was the cold and arrogant dragon Dara who explained to him. The Azura clan first followed the demon ancestor of Ro, and then they had a relationship with Patriarch River Styx. Of the 2 demon ancestor, one was sealed in the land of nothingness, and the other even broke into the land of nothingness, sealed the enemy, and escaped unscathed. They are the 2 great divines who know the land of nothingness the best. It's normal for the Azura to know some things from them. Don't you think so, King Shimori? Dragon Dara turned to Shimori and asked. Shimori was silent for a few breaths, then he said calmly, "According to what I know, before entering the land of nothingness, one has to pass through a static layer. The space and time in the land of nothingness might not be static, but it is rotating at the speed of light. Therefore, any existence that enters it will be thrown out by the centrifugal force if it is unable to be static with the rotating space and time. Therefore, one can only approach the land of nothingness by using an escape art that can reach the speed of light and be static with the rotating space and time. During this process, the land of nothingness will constantly be devoured by the land of nothingness. We might collide with a tangible calamity power of destruction at the speed of light at any time, which will cause an unimaginable disaster. Just getting close to the land of nothingness is already so troublesome. I don't know why you are still in the mood to bicker here." Fan Wujie, the blood-slaughter demon monarch, and the burning soul demon monarch, Great Master Fajing slightly imagined a scene that had condensed into substance. It was essentially the phenomenon of the destruction of the world, and the terrifying existence materialized by the tribulation power of destruction colliding with it at the speed of light. For example, the thunderclouds of the ultimate deity Thunder. They were condensed from the space that had fallen into the calamity of destruction. In essence, they were lightning bolts that were materialized from the calamity of destruction when countless energies were rubbing against each other at an extremely high speed in a world that was on the verge of destruction. Or the heavenly fire of nirvana. They were the wreckage of a world that had fallen into the calamity of destruction. Due to the infinite increase in entropy, they were the chaotic essence that spontaneously developed from order to disorder, turning all orderly systems into chaotic flames. Or the calamity power of decay. Indefinite cosmic light, chaotic transformation, destructive time. The most frightening thing was that these phenomena did not usually exist in isolation. A world wreckage destroyed by the calamity of destruction could very well be a world whose entropy value had increased infinitely, and whose energies were boiling like porridge, moving chaotically, producing an extremely high temperature and chaotic essence. Even space itself was in a state of complete chaos. Then, the world wreckage itself would burn with extremely vigorous heavenly fire of nirvana. However, the violent friction of the energies would completely destroy the basic yin and yang structure that made up the energies, and would also produce the ultimate deity thunder, Jade Dawn Thunder, which was extremely destructive. Then, the extremely disorderly time would be the light of decay. After the basic yin and yang structure had disappeared, the vigorous movement of energies would also produce the existence of the destructive astral wind. The extremely violent energies could even cause the energies to collide violently, and the yin and yang energies that were born from the collision could destroy each other. In the end, the world wreckage that was torn apart would have bizarre rifts where all energies had completely vanished and all dimensions did not exist, the dead waters. Beings that were unlucky enough to be caught by the rifts would be completely torn apart by the tearing force that suddenly appeared. As the energies were evenly spread across boundless space, their concentration would drop by astronomical numbers. A single strand of energies would need to fill a space the size of a galaxy, and as the scale of each strand's movement expanded infinitely, the efficiency of movement would fall without a line. In a world where the speed of light was constant, such a phenomenon where existence was infinitely magnified would require every strand of energies to move over a distance of hundreds of millions of light-years in a single movement of a finger, because the density of the fundamental matter that constituted basic existence had dropped to a shocking level. Such abnormal expansion of spatial scale would cause the efficiency of movement to drop drastically, and the entire movement would be like a pool of stagnant water. Hence, the phenomenon of the dead waters. The Great Rip could not destroy certain beings, such as Dara. However, if Dara's body was expanded infinitely, most Dara's body would die of exhaustion. These things were entangled in a fragment of a world that had fallen into the ultimate and was on the verge of destruction. Even if Dara and even Dowlords could easily manipulate, destroy, and distort it before the destruction of this world, after it was infected by the retribution of destruction, or in other words, after it had degenerated into a highly energized form, it was like the difference between a bullet and a bullet fired from a gun. Crashing into it at the speed of light was no different from suicide. Dara might be able to resist for a while, but Dowlords would definitely be turned into ashes without a sound. King Shimori continued, even if you were lucky enough to break through the realm of serenity and enter the horizon of nothingness, you should be able to see that nothing can escape this boundary. Once you enter it, all dimensions will disappear, leaving only a vector. This is known as 10-directional destruction. In 10-directional destruction, there is no past, no future, no up, down, left, right, and back. There is only a single line forward. And the end of that line is the singularity, also known as the singularity. In the singularity, everything is different from the world we live in. The heavenly Tao does not exist, and neither does the great Tao. We know nothing about the state of the singularity, except that it is an unimaginable state. Because it is too strange, it is called the singularity. Even I don't know if you will die after entering the singularity, but you will become a completely different existence. By then, it is hard to say if it will still be you, or if you will still be alive. Fan Wujie shuddered. So if we can't reach the singularity, then how can we get past 10-directional destruction? The Nantua ancient ant is a strange existence. As an ancient species, its spatial thinking is one-dimensional, which means that it only has two directions. In its eyes, everything is linear in space, but they are normal in our eyes. Later, we found that the Nantua ancient ant can only walk straight, because the linear space it follows is different from ours. So to escape from 10-directional destruction, the only destination is to rely on the Nantua ancient ant to walk backward. Didn't you say that we can't walk backward? Also, the Nantua ancient ant can only walk straight. How can it walk backward? Fan Wujie asked in surprise. The Nantua ancient ant was created by Patriarch River Styx, and Patriarch River Styx was probably the first existence to move freely in the nothingness. he might have understood some of the principles of 10-directional destruction and created this extremely strange creature with spatial thinking. So it is reasonable that it can walk backward. Anyway, we can't walk backward, we can only walk forward. But the Nantua ancient ant can walk backward, and even if it walks backward, it will still walk straight. If the Nantua ancient ant walks backward in the state of 10-directional destruction, won't it be able to leave the nothingness boundary and break the definition of no return in the nothingness boundary? Yuan Yu asked. Shemoli chuckled and said, well said. So even if we walk backward, we won't come back here. Instead, we will cross the first nothingness horizon and arrive at the second nothingness boundary. That's all I know. Shemoli turned to Spiritual Master Ziyang and Tao Master Corpse Demon and said in a low voice, there should only be 2 Tao friends left. And Poya Mo Kyo knows. Tao Master Corpse Demon smiled and looked at Spiritual Master Ziyang. Spiritual Master, do you want to do it or should I? Spiritual Master Ziyang said calmly, please enlighten me, Tao Master. Tao Master Corpse Demon clasped his hands behind his back and said, what King Shemoli said is correct. The details are exactly the same as what I know. In fact, it is even more detailed. After crossing the second nothingness horizon, we will be able to touch the seal of Ro Demon Ancestor. This layer is called the inversion layer. The reference of time and space is inverted here, which means that time becomes space and space becomes time. Going forward is going back to the past, and going backward is going back to the future. The flow of time becomes the displacement of space. The further you go, the smaller you will become until your time reaches 0. Then, you will disappear. So, Fan Wujie said in shock. So, unless you are the same age as the universe and lived before the creation of heaven and earth, you will disappear along the way. Everyone in Dara was very calm. The inversion layer was not dangerous to them, but the Tao Lords were not. Great Master Fajing said with a trembling voice, doesn't that mean we will die for sure? Who can live to be born? No one can escape from the inversion layer except the chaos gods and demons. They can only go forward but not go back. They will be trapped in the same place forever, and as time passes, they will leave the universe at the speed of light. This is the result of time becoming space. The time inside is actually relative to the distance in this universe, Tao Master Corpse Demon added. Ajati was also not calm. So, you mean, staying in there for too long will also disappear? Then what about Dara? Fan Wujie said doubtfully. Although Dara has an endless lifespan, there is still a time before the Tao is proven, and there is a time when you are born. If you keep going forward, you will also disappear. Dara will not disappear. Even if we walk to the time before we are born, we will still exist. Spiritual Master Ziyang said calmly, we will only walk to the time before the creation of heaven and earth. After walking through this time, we might be able to reach the moment when Wuji begets Taiji. Wuji is the heaven of Dara. Fan Wujie's expression was a little strange. Then why am I the key to going to the heaven of Dara? Because walking forward leads to the heaven of Dara, and walking backward leads to the end of the Tao's sinkhole. But the inversion layer does not only have front and back. It also has up, down, left and right. Left and right leads to the parallel universe, and up and down leads to the universe era even further back. But because the Torch Dragon God has sealed the relationship between the more ancient universe and the parallel universe, we will be lost in the river of time controlled by the Torch Dragon God if we go in either direction. So, we need something that can determine the coordinates of time, and that is the Khanate Time Tao Seed. Fan Wujie was dumbfounded. So I'm just a compass? I can point out the correct path to the heaven of Dara, but I can't reach the heaven of Dara, because I will disappear once I pass the time of my birth. It doesn't matter. Tao Master Corpse Demon said coldly, the Khanate Time Tao Seed will not disappear. And as we go deeper into the starting point of time, deeper into the Khanate 5 grand epochs, the time Tao seed will grow stronger and stronger. Finally, it will sprout at the starting point of time and grow into a part of the Tao of time that connects the universe. When that happens, the time Tao seed will grow into a time vine that will extend from the starting point of time to the end of the Tao's sinkhole. It will pass by the Tao lords like you who are unable to break through the limits of time, and you will have the chance to use this time vine to climb to the end of your existence and reach the heaven of Dara. Little friend Fan, Spiritual Master Ziyang said lightly, you've opened up a path for all the realms. Your merits are boundless. The nameless monk sighed, if you want to break through the limits of your birth and go against the river of time, you will either have to use your Kane time Tao seed to slowly imprint yourself before time, or you will have to use the power of the laws of reincarnation to live out your past life. It is already difficult enough to live out the future, let alone the past life? To forcefully reverse the cycle of reincarnation and live out one's past life, when it does not exist. Only Patriarch River Styx's 9 questions of the netherworld would have such a heaven-defying ability. Dragon Dara sighed. Spiritual Master Ziyang had a strange look on his face as he said in a low voice, could it be the great ability derived from that question, reverse reincarnation? The corpse demon Tao Master shook his head and said, reverse samsara is too heaven-defying. Even I don't dare to take this path of reincarnation from the back to the front. Although I have some superficial knowledge of this divine ability, I don't know which question of the Hades 9 questions belongs to. If you don't know the origin, you will never be able to prove your Tao by reversing the samsara. This is a dead end. Yuan Yu secretly transmitted his voice to Fan Wujie, who was beside him. When we reach the inversion level, run backwards. You've consumed the immortal elixir, and your lifespan is endless. You can walk until the end of time. They won't know that this is your only way out. Fan Wujie's lips were trembling. Yuan Yu continued to transmit his voice. If you continue walking forward, when you reach the end of time, the time seed of Tao can also sprout. After that, it will go against the long river of time and grow towards the beginning of time. If you follow the growth of the time seed of Tao and head towards the Dara heaven, you will still have the hope to prove your Tao. When the time comes, when you pass by the time point where I am, please give me a hand and pull me back from outside the universe. Fan Wujie could not help but clench his fists tightly as he said emotionally, Old Taoist. My hope of attaining the Tao rests on you. Yuan Yu smiled. But Fan Wujie knew that it was not as simple as Yuan Yu made it out to be. The simplest reason was that the end of time was destruction. How could Fan Wujie survive the destruction and the calamity of the demon god of destruction? In the inversion level, the Dara heaven is at the front, and the place where Ro is sealed is at the back. It's funny that Ro is sealed at the end of time in the Tao's final ruin. Shemili smiled. Ro has never been bound. He only lives in his own era, forever trapped in the day of the universe's end. He can only vent his anger and destroy everything. Therefore, the seal of Ro is simple and mysterious. It does not seal Ro, but it defines where Ro is the end of time. Therefore, he does not exist in our era. Since he does not exist, how can he come here? This is the seal of nothingness. It is also the reason why we believe that Luo Ho cannot break through the seal. Once Luo Ho breaks through the seal, he will arrive at the end of time, where the myriad Tao sinkhole is. When he comes out of the sinkhole, he will definitely arrive at the end of the Tao. Just like how a person cannot step into the same river twice, Ro, or the demon god of destruction, can only step into one point of time, and that is the tribulation of destruction, the tribulation of nirvana, and the end of Tao. Therefore, Heng Jun of nothingness sealed Ro, because the great Tao of destruction is destined to destroy itself, and everything will return to nothingness. Under the great Tao of nothingness, the great Tao of destruction will only last for a short period of time, and the era of destruction is destined to disappear in the blink of an eye. The seal of nothingness is the destined result. Those who really know the origin of the seal, who dares to say that they can save Ro? Not even the revered ones, not even the three pure ones. River Styx's real plan is to force Ro to become the demon ancestor of destruction, and then use the great Tao of nothingness to restrain the demon god of destruction, so that the demon god will exist forever at the end of time. Therefore, what seals Ro is destruction itself. Destruction is destined to be a short process. Before it is the foundation of the existence of Taiji, and behind it is Hing Jun of nothingness. Destruction is destined to not last long. It will only destroy destruction itself, and then become nothingness, the era of infinity. Therefore, River Styx set the seal. Where Ro is, will be the end of Tao. Even if Ro comes out now, so what? He is still trapped in that narrow, destined to be a short era. The sooner he comes out, the River Styx ancestor will still be the one to succeed in the end. A person will never be able to break free from himself, and the seal that can't be broken is his shadow. So what if Ro enters the seal? Everyone can enter Ro's seal and see Ro. As long as he lives long enough, he will naturally see that day. Poya Kuo, who was being held by Poya's corpse, suddenly had a change in his indifferent expression. He felt as if his soul had been pierced by a bolt of lightning. This is impossible. Poya Kuo's several faces were at a loss, and his eyes were empty. Some of those eyes showed disbelief, denial, and emptiness, as if they had lost their souls. Finally, some of them showed extreme pain and despair. Ha ha ha! Shemoli laughed wildly. The era that those people have been pursuing, the era that the Azura kings have been searching for, is actually an endless cycle, an eternal end. It was because I saw such a hopeless ending that I betrayed them. Azura deserves a better era. Ro lost. He lost when he became the final resentment of the Chaos God Fiend. He is an unwilling remnant will of the old era, an afterimage of the old era, a karma between the Chaos God Fiend and the great god Pangu. Ancestor River Styx ancestor is the true pioneer of the new era, the one who created the era of the demonic Tao. Shemoli's face was filled with grief, anger, despair, and laughter. He had 9 heads and 8 faces, and each face was filled with joy and sorrow, showing intense emotions. Now, Brahma Wujia felt a trace of sympathy for the remnant of Ro. They had all worked hard for a hopeless ending, but in the end, they were told this despairing news. Let's enter the void. Spiritual Master Ziyang said calmly. After being tortured by this series of shocking news, the Tao monarchs could only silently agree. Chapter 1281. The moment he stepped into that blurry boundary, Fan Wujia felt as if he had fallen into a fast-moving flow of time. For cultivators, timing was extremely important. The most important thing for those who transcended their tribulations to become immortals was to be able to control their own timing. After becoming an immortal, cultivators would have an extremely strong grasp over their own lifespan and their own time. The moment he stepped into the static stratum, he felt that his time was slowing down, or rather, his lifespan was about to stop. At this time, Fan Wujia finally understood why this place was called the static stratum. Because the void boundary rotated at the speed of light, the closer one got to the void boundary, the slower time would become. When one was closest to the void boundary, time could stop. At that time, one breath of time at the edge of the void boundary could be thousands of years in the outside world. The closer one got to the void boundary, the slower time became. Fan Wujia felt that the time-light true water here, due to the relative motion, had almost stopped flowing. It was like a piece of amber condensed by the time-light true water, freezing everything in the amber and then being shattered by the destruction of the physical world, moving at the speed of light. This was a time trap. To break through this time trap, one could only use a light-speed escape technique to reach a relatively static state relative to the void boundary's rotation. In other words, one had to move at the speed of light around the void boundary's rotation relative to the speed of light. Therefore, the number one escape technique in the universe, the fastest speed in the universe, was only the basic requirement to enter the void boundary. Fan Wujie hurriedly used the timelight escape technique to increase his speed and keep up with the rotation of the void limit. However, when the relative speed of the two reached a standstill, Fan Wujie finally felt that his time sequence had returned to normal. But because time slowed down the closer one got to the void boundary, the faster the spacetime curvature and rotation speed, Fan Wujie had to gradually increase his speed until he reached the limit of the time light in the universe. This was the constant speed of the time light true water. Thank goodness the chaos universe has been downgraded. Because the curvature of spacetime became slower the further one went from the void boundary, the closer one went to the void boundary, the slower time actually became until it stopped. Therefore, when Tao Master Corpse Demon entered the static stratum, he could still speak. Otherwise, with the speed of light in the chaos universe, we would not be able to get close to the void boundary. A divine thunder of returning ruin brushed past Fan Wujie's side. Fan Wujie could only watch as the divine thunder of returning ruin brushed past an old monk behind him, and a tiny electric light leaped across his body. The Buddha's light of eminent Buddhist monks came from the heart. It was the best at defense and was incomparably tough. Usually, the seemingly thin layer of light would be incomparably tough and unbreakable no matter how the wind, earth, water, fire, and the monstrous dermic powers wore it down. Fan Wujie had also personally experienced how difficult it was to deal with the Buddha light spell. Often, it was just a thin layer of light, but the inside and outside were like two different worlds. But now, a wisp of electric light flashed, and that incomparably thick Buddhist light seemed to have short-circuited and misconnected. It flickered twice and then shattered. The monk who had raised the Buddha's light to protect his body revealed a look of despair, but he also calmly closed his eyes to accept this fact. Then, in the blink of an eye, he turned into ashes, and even his golden body was burned into charcoal. Great Master Fa Jing cried out in grief, "Junior brother Fa Hui." The nameless old monk sighed helplessly and said, "The divine thunder of returning ruin is soundless and colorless. It is extinguished upon contact, beyond redemption. This old monk can't save them either, and if you want to enter the realm of nothingness, you have to use your own strength, or you will face an unknown tribulation." The Path Master of the Corpse Demon snorted coldly and said, "Monk, if you bring them with the purple gold alms bowl, you will most likely attract the tribulation power of destruction and drag me down. I will hold you responsible for that. The tribulation power of destruction can naturally sense the foundation of existence. It is fine if you are separated, but if you are gathered together, your respective tribulations will gather together and affect each other, causing countless casualties, and you will die even faster." Fan Wujie became even more cautious. Along the way, he had brushed past countless dangers such as the heavenly fire of returning ruin, divine thunder of returning ruin, and astral winds of annihilation. Along the way, he had avoided countless world fragments, and countless traps of the heavenly wreckage. Along the way, he had lost a few fellow Taoists, and none of them ended up well. Although the number of casualties was less than a handful. In reality, those who could make it here were all Tao lords of the heavenly worlds, major figures who could shake an entire world with a shake of their thighs. Now, the inconspicuous cannon fodder who had died here were major figures who could stir up multiple worlds and even countless living beings in the heavenly world. If anyone could see this scene, they would definitely feel a bone-piercing chill. Fan Wujie had experienced many dangers before he was able to approach that blurry boundary. At this time, he had no choice but to raise his cosmic light evasion to the highest level in order to just barely maintain the relative prohibition and normal flow of time. But when he looked to both sides, he found that apart from the few major figures among the Tao lords like the Shui Tu King, who could still maintain the same flow of time as him. The other Tao lords had slowed down a bit. It was clear that their own time was slowing down. The Shui-Tu King's body was wrapped in a streak of bloody light, and his speed was no slower than Fan Wujie's. Yuan Yu's streak of light was dim and inconspicuous, but his speed was not slow at all. Ajati was wrapped in an incomparably sharp sword light. Fan Wujie felt a chill in his heart just by brushing past the sword light. That incomparably fierce sword light seemed to be able to kill everything in its path. Even the few Dara Taoists were slightly afraid of it. Fan Wujie suddenly understood that this was the famous Yuan-Tu sword light of the Devil Tao. It was clear that these two Devil Tao lineages were indeed extraordinary. Although Yuan Yu was low-key, the speed of his streak of light had completely exposed him. He was actually on par with the Blood Fiend sect and the Slaughter Fiend sect. It was clear that this spy of the righteous Tao, the Maiden sect leader, had an extraordinary hidden strength. For some reason, Reverend Ziyang had not revealed his relationship with Yuan Yu. It seemed that he did not want to expose this chess piece. Among the other Taoists, Reverend Fajing of the Buddhist Tao had golden lotuses under his feet. Relying on his strong divine feet, he was able to keep up with the speed of light. The other Buddhist Taoists had changed their state and turned into Dharma bodies made of willpower. They were not real, and a dot of heart light appeared, allowing them to travel through the heavens without any hindrance. They were relying on the heart light escape art to hold on. The demon Tao had a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Some of them turned into a streak of fire, and the speed of the explosion was not slow either. However, it was slightly strenuous. Some of them changed their state and turned into a Yin demon, which was similar to the Dharma bodies made of willpower of the Buddhist Tao. There were also some who damaged their essence and used the heavenly demon disintegration art or the great art of blood transformation. They desperately used their streaks of light. Although they were in a slightly difficult situation, no one fell into the cosmic light trap. This was probably because the demon Tao and Buddhist Taoists had all been eliminated along the way. The righteous Tao had not encountered any disasters along the way, but the Taoists who had arrived safely were in trouble. 2 of them had been burned to death by the heavenly fire of quietus. Now, a young man in Taoist robes had turned into a streak of golden light and used the rarely seen rainbow transformation art of the mystic door. Another person had turned into a streak of golden light and moved about freely. It was the golden light technique of the mystic door. The last person was using the most orthodox 5 elements escape art, which had already reached the level of the grand escape art of the 5 elements. Fan Wujie started calculating in his mind. Although the art of escape might not be able to include all the elites of the 3 religions, I can say that it is not far from the truth. Among the 3 religions, there are only 8 people who are able to reach the peak of the universe, the number 1 art of escape in the heavens. Among them, there are 3 from the demon sect. Xingyang Zi's escape light is the darkest. It is extremely secretive. I'm afraid that he is still hiding something. At least, I know that his art of transformation is extremely brilliant. If he transforms into a few types of innate living beings that are good at escaping, his speed would be even faster. Shui-Tu's bloodlight is probably the secret of the Blood Sea. The lifeless cult leader uses the sword light to escape, but his lethality is the most terrifying. In the Buddhist Tao, only Master Fajing is powerful. Although the other heart light escape arts are also marvelous, they seem to be using trickery. On the surface there are 3 people from the righteous Tao, but in reality there are 4. This is because Zhengyangzi is actually a spy from the righteous Tao, which shows how deep the foundation of the mystic door is. One of them turned into a rainbow and escaped, another shone with golden light, and the last one used the grand escape art of the 5 elements. They are all easy to learn, but extremely profound and difficult to learn. The young man in Taoist robes who turned into a rainbow and escaped should be from the West Kunlun Orthodoxy, a rogue immortal. The golden light of earth is the direct disciple of the mystic door, and it is widely spread among the disciples of the Yuanshi Great Heavenly Lord, so it should be from the Jade Pure lineage. Lastly, the grand escape art of the 5 elements is too orthodox, so it's hard to find out his background. I've achieved the innate cosmic great Tao, so I'm blessed by the heavens with my escape art. It's very easy for me to achieve success. These 7 people are not inferior to me in escape art, and their divine arts and spells are probably a level higher than mine. They'll be strong opponents. Those who are slightly inferior in other escape arts might be outstanding in other aspects. Fan Wu-jie analyzed carefully, and he felt that there were indeed crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the universe. Based on this analysis, it seems that the mystic door is the strongest now, and although the Buddhist Tao is slightly inferior, they are the most united. The demon Tao's strength is not enough, and it's divided, but, however, Fan Wu-jie could not forget the series of tricks that the demon Tao seemed to have suffered along the way, such as sacrificing the incarnation of the devil god of destruction, then faking his death to escape, and colluding with King Shimori. The incarnation of a tree was actually undergoing a heavenly transformation, and the corpse god old man who cultivated the 9-death reincarnation deceiving great art, and was essentially the current body of the corpse demon Tao master, as the leader of the demon Tao along the way, but in fact, he did not reveal anything, and was still hiding in the shadows. On the surface, he appeared to be cheerful and funny, and was the Shui-Tu king. He colluded with Shimori to create replicas of the 4 immortal slaying swords, kept a low profile in the beginning, and was the second in command of the demon Tao. In the end, he was revealed to be Ajati, who could communicate with Yuan-Tu's sword Qi, and had the strongest killing power in the universe. There was also the Taoist Lord who seemed harmless at the beginning, and the slippery Taoist Lord who hung around the ruins of End. Later on, he was exposed as a spy of the demon Tao, and was still hiding until now. Along the way, he plotted against them to fall into the Blood Sea Tribulation I, plotted against the remnants of Ro, backstabbed his fellow Azura companions, betrayed Ro, and sought refuge with the Patriarch of the River Styx, and was very familiar with the Sealed Land. There was also the Hades Jiwan, who cultivated a heaven-defying cultivation, and the corpse demon Tao master who hid the most along the way. The demon Tao had too many tricks up their sleeves, and they would often do unexpected things. Now, among the few old demons, there were a few old monsters who hid the most, and Fan Wu-jie did not find it strange at all. Fan Wu-jie noticed that a portion of the people were getting further and further away from them. Their time had become extremely slow, and although they were still moving forward, they had stopped at a certain point. The corpse demon Tao master who was walking in front of him snorted coldly. Ignorant fanatics. They have already fallen into the cosmic light trap, and time has slowed down. Their speed has reached a balance with the centrifugal force of the void realm, and they can no longer move forward. Although there is only a slight difference between the near-light escape technique and the cosmic light escape technique, the results are worlds apart. I've said it before, only a true cosmic-grade escape technique can escape the cosmic trap and enter the void boundary, but they've turned a deaf ear to my words. Stop looking, they are dead for sure. Fan Wu-jie turned his head to look, and saw that these people were indeed trapped in the cosmic light amber, and their every movement was several times slower. At this time, the speed at which they were approaching the void realm had reached a balance with the centrifugal force of the void realm's rotation, and they were now trapped at a certain point, unable to move. The only way out was to quickly retreat. But these people did not realize that they were not moving forward at all, and they still thought that they were chasing after Fan Wu-jie and the others, and that they were just a step too slow. Soon, this relative balance would solidify, and when that happened, they would all be frozen in the cosmic light amber. Time would stop, and they would not be able to react even if they wanted to. Just as the corpse demon Tao master had said, they were dead for sure. There was no hope. Almost all of these people were Dara from the righteous path of the mystic door, and in just a short while, half of them had been killed. Dao-lords who could shake half of the heavenly realm sea with a single stomp of their feet had died without a single sound. Fan Wujie felt a chill in his heart. When they finally reached the borders of the Void Realm, several of the Dara Dao-lords used their strength to pull their own Dao-lords back, preventing them from being pulled into the cosmic light trap at the borders of the Void Realm. As Fan Wujie stepped into the Void Realm, he felt as though the space around him had suddenly collapsed. The boundless expanse of space and time had collapsed into a single line that stretched forward. Up, down, left, right, front, back, forth, past, future, everything was destroyed. He had been stretched into a strange shape, and all directions in space had disappeared. All that was left was to helplessly slide forward towards an indescribable singularity. There, Fan Wujie felt as though everything he knew had lost its meaning. Everything had gone wrong. He felt a deep sense of fear. As he approached that singularity, he himself would be destroyed by all sorts of strange things. It was a series of completely different grand Daos, an inconceivable singularity that could not be described by the great desolate Daos. However, Fan Wujie was unable to turn around and flee, because there was no other direction. The only way forward was forward. At this moment, Fan Wujie saw an ant crawling in front of him. It was an enormous ant, and it was crawling on the vector of 10 directions annihilation. The ant trembled its antennae, then began to retreat. At this moment, a direction suddenly appeared behind Fan Wujie. Fan Wujie turned his head in delight, then took a step forward and crossed into another world. And then, the coordinates of space and time were reversed. He arrived in a strange world that seemed to be filled with primordial chaos. He felt as though he was leaving this universe at the speed of light at every moment. There were already people standing in this place before him, but they had only been separated for a brief moment, and yet there was a temporal barrier between them. The Daolord Corpse Demon, Adept Violet Sun, and Monk Avidya stood above the primordial chaos. The Daolord Corpse Demon smiled and said, "Let's go back and take a look at where Rose Seal and the 4 Immortal Slayer swords are." After that, he ignored everyone and walked backward, heading downstream of time. He did not care what Fan Wujie did. Since the innate time light Dao seed was already here, it did not matter if Fan Wujie moved or not. At the worst, he could just walk upstream when he wanted to find him. After all, Fan Wujie could not surpass the time when he was born, and this period of time was too short for them. There was no need to go far.